Share, you get both. Many families save $500 a month with Metashare, and that's huge. But it's also true that people wind up way more satisfied too. The member satisfaction rate for Metashare is double that of the typical health insurance plan. Double. That's because Metashare works. It has for more than 30 years. It's a community of Christians who have shared more than $5 billion of each other's bills. People love having telehealth. They love the huge PPO network. So, yeah, really, you can save a ton and like it better. Imagine being happy with how you're taking care of your health care. So if you're self-employed or part of the gig economy, or you just want a plan you're happy with, you can call right now and get a price in 2 minutes. Here's the number. Just call 855-51-BIBLE. That's 855-51-BIBLE, 855-51-BIBLE.
Hi, guys. Jeffrey O'Brien here. Have you ever gone to HarmonSolar.com? Well, you really need to, because everything you ever wanted to know about how solar power can save you big on your monthly electric bill is right there. It's online. Through your phone or through your computer, you can learn about tax credits, the equipment they use, look at how they do things for businesses as well as homeowners, see testimonials from happy customers, and I hear they got a pretty good podcast, too. Check it out. Go to HarmonSolar.com. That's HarmonSolar.com.
My pain is considerable, but that prescription is dangerous.
The side effects of my medicine are worse than my condition.
I'm in recovery. I can't take those pills.
When faced with a health crisis, you shouldn't have to choose between risks.
At the Naturopathic Physicians Group in Scottsdale, our medical doctors are experts in full spectrum care using a natural approach. Patients come in for a variety of issues, including joint pain, chronic conditions, and issues specific to men's and women's health. Our naturopathic doctors can restore pain-free joint function and restore balance in immune, digestive, and hormone systems, which often improves immediate physical symptoms without having you take a bunch of pills. If traditional medicines aren't working, don't you think it's time to start feeling like yourself again? Call Naturopathic Physicians Group at 480-451-6161. That's 480-451-6161. Or go to naturopathicgroup.com. Now open in Scottsdale. It's United Porte Custom Door Showroom with 40,000 Euro doors and hundreds of state-of-the-art designs and finishes on display, plus kitchen cabinets, bathroom vanities, and more, all at wholesale prices. Builders, contractors, designers, and yes, you. Come see our showroom on Greenway Hayden Loop. That's United Porte, Porte. Stop by to see and feel the quality. United Porte Custom Doors. Find us at uporte.com. That's uporte.com.
KQFN Tempe. Also transmitting on K257CD Phoenix at 99.3 FM and K240 EU Fountain Hills at 95.9 FM.
Quiet, people, settle down.
Because it's time.
Time for what?
Showtime.
When does it start?
Right now. 3, 2, 1.
Let's get on with the show.
Let's do it.
Welcome to a Wednesday edition of the Daily Blender on this October 2nd, 2024. It's 3 o'clock in the Valley, and that means it's time for the Daily Blender. We've got 3 big hours of sports talk and, I don't know, other stuff. My name is Randy White. Right along me is the sexiest man at Sports Talk Radio. That's Keon Rose. Jeffrey O'Brien. He is out on vacation. He'll be back 15 days from now. Yeah. Is it 15 days?
Something like that.
The 17th.
That's already
15.
bigger
16,
numbers
17,
than I feel comfortable trafficking in.
18.
Honestly,
he'll be back sometime in October, and you are texting in on our text line at 888-368-1580 as we broadcast live from the Harmon Solar Studios in beautiful uptown Scottsdale. Keon, a lot going on.
Yeah.
We've got NBA preseason that's starting tonight. We've got the NFL season starting tonight. We've got MLB playoffs that are going on right now. We've got NFL football happening. Oh my God, we have so much going on. We got the WNBA in their playoff rotation, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've got. Oh, are there like aircraft flying in Nevada for the airplane races. I mean, we've got so much going on, Kia.
Yeah, this is the busiest time of the sports calendar, the sporting calendar. Just with all the playoffs and season starting and all of that stuff.
People talk about these sports programs not having anything to talk about. Oh my God, we have got a lot to talk about today here on the Blender. And you are texting in the fourth dimension at 888-368-1580. Is Ralph joining us? Is Ralph going to join us?
I actually don't know.
All right. Well, I mean, even if he doesn't, we have a lot to talk about today on the Daily Blender. Again, 888-368-1580. We've got a lot to talk about here on the Blender. Here's Big George. Happy Hump Day, gentlemen. The cheating Astros got eliminated by the red hot Detroit Tigers. Ha ha ha! Cheating Astros and Jose Altuve. That's what you get for cheating on the World Series. Go Padres tonight. Beat the Braves and the Dodgers. I mean, Big George is sort of angry.
I don't know if he's angry. He's just laughing at a team we all hate.
Teacher lady's on the text line, but I thought yesterday
we've already unmasked teacher lady.
I thought yesterday we figured out who teacher lady was.
Pretty sure we got to the end of that episode of Scooby-Doo and pulled off the mask of teacher lady, and it was Big George. We've already done that, Big George.
Chosen one on the text line says, "Afternoon, gentlemen. Heard a crazy stat today. 55 straight days of football between college and NFL. You mean from now until
the end of the seasons? That would be my guess.
Now until
because you technically can't count the days in between football as days of football. 55 is a lot, though. I'll take it.
55 straight days of football between college and NFL, and that's all they say. Chosen one. 55 today, starting today. Is that starting today? Chosen one?
I think so.
Is there football tonight? It's Wednesday.
No, I don't think he's saying it's tonight. He's just saying there's football between now and the end of the seasons. There will be 55 days of football.
What does he mean? Does he mean
the days in which football are played?
He wouldn't be saying that about professional football.
He's saying between college and professional, both of them together combined.
Only 55?
Yeah, I mean, you only play, once a week, and most NFL games are played on Sunday, and most college games are played on Saturday.
You got Thursday night, you got Sunday night, you got how many games on Sunday?
But
but
that's the thing. All of the games on Sunday count as one day.
Then
all of the games on Saturday count as...
you got the MAC Thursday.
The MAC, but the thing is that counts as one day with the Thursday night football.
And he's saying
they don't count as separate days.
Chosen one is 55 straight days of football.
Well, he didn't say straight days.
Mm-hmm.
He just 55 days of. Just,
starting today, he says.
Left.
He just sent that in.
Remaining, as it were.
Remaining of, what do you mean? Like college?
Of both together.
55?
Yeah.
So if we look at the calendar right now, Keon, and holy cow, if we look at the calendar right now, does that mean February? 55 days right now?
Probably. I can believe it. There's like only 52 weeks in a year. So if we're going in a frame that's less than a year and we're counting basically Thursday to Monday. Yeah, I can see it.
So you got Monday, you got Thursday, you got Sunday, you got Sunday night.
Well, you can't count Sunday night as a different day. That's the same day.
There's like Christmas Eve. Because they've got a game on Christmas Eve.
Right? When's Christmas Eve? If Christmas Eve falls on any of the days it already falls on,
24th of February. I'm sorry, December. 24th of December. I don't. This is killing me. This 55 days left of football. I don't think that's right. Is that college? That's got to be college. It's got to be. No, because you think about that, all the bowl games, no, 55 days of football. What are you talking about, Pop Warner?
Is it just regular season? I don't know, but I could believe that because of how much overlap is on those games.
888-368-1580. That's a text line. Keon, no. Mm-mm.
What?
55 days.
You're so hung up on this.
It's. I mean, if you go 55 days from October 2nd, okay, that would mean the football season would stop in December. It doesn't stop in December.
Why? How did you come to December being the day that it stops?
Well, we got the entire, 29 days in October.
Yeah.
Okay, that's 29.
Yeah.
And then you've got.
But you can't count every day. They don't play football every day.
What do you mean?
They
55 days of football is what he said.
The days on which football are played. You can't count all the days of October. They don't play football on Tuesday night.
This is blowing my mind.
You can't count Tuesday, except for Christmas. You can't count Wednesday.
They've got like 7 games on Christmas. They've got college.
But it all counts as one day of football.
What do you mean? One day? If there's...
You can't count multiple games as a day. Wait. It counts as one day. If they play 20 games in one day, that's still one day of football. A jam-packed, loaded day of football, mind you, but one day of football. I mean,
this is blowing my mind.
I know. Your entire outlook has been altered.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Man.
No, look, listen.
This is math, and I was promised there would be none. So I
was told there would be none math on this show as well.
I am more than happy to move on from this. I genuinely, because what I don't want to do is have to open up the calendar and count.
55 days of football? No.
I hate counting. No, I will not be doing that.
That's not right.
I can believe it because you can't count. You have, if it doesn't matter how many games are on the day, that still counts as one day. He's not talking about games left, just days.
Let's see here. Fish tank. How much whiskey have you had today, Randy? None. I haven't had any. I'm just kind of blown away by this.
I feel like Kenny the Jet Smith trying to explain to Shaq the half tank of gas thing. I don't know how to explain it. I have no additional tools to get that idea.
Swazman says, Randy, 55 days from right now is Tuesday, November 26th, 2 days before Thanksgiving, which we know there's football that day. I know. That's what I'm saying, man.
Yeah, but
that's what I'm trying to say.
But you can't count Wednesday and Tuesday because those are not days of football. That's what I'm trying to say.
Good Lord. I'm just trying to say,
he's only counting the days on which football are played.
Somebody is trying to make football season shorter than it should be.
I mean, it already is kind of short, if we're honest.
What? What do you mean by that? Hey,
I mean that there are 163 baseball games. There are 82 NBA games. You only get 17 in the NFL. It's already shorter.
Come on. We're talking about football here. I mean,
yeah, it's shorter for good reason. I mean, you can't
football.
You can't play 80 games of football. People will die. But it is shorter.
Yes.
It's football, but because it's football, it's shorter.
Somebody said,
Randy, we don't have to get this hung up on this. This cannot be this fascinating for people to listen to. I don't personally. I'm not here. This is not and I love to argue. Everybody knows this. This is not a hill I'm willing to die on. I just don't. This can't be interesting enough. We're like 15 minutes into the show. And we're still talking about the amount of days allegedly left in football season.
Let's see here. Somebody looks like a new texter. The 4108 says it is 55 straight days of football. There are games on Tuesday and Wednesday beginning next week. What do you mean, NFL? Are you talking about football, whether it's college or pro? Is that what you're saying? Holy cow. I gotta tell you.
I'm about ready to move on, to be honest with you.
I gotta tell you. I'm worn out. I mean, there are 55 straight days of football. There are games on next Tuesday and Wednesday beginning next. Are you talking about NFL or
it can't be
college?
NFL. It can't be NFL. It can't be NFL.
Walter Mellon says Google it. Why do I want to Google it? Chosen One says college and NFL combined. All right, there we go.
Well, I'm glad we got that worked out. I'm glad that's
college and NFL combined. All right. Holy cow.
I Googled it. It's real.
All right. So what do you got?
It's on 24/7 Sports, and they were talking after October 2nd. You're going to get some college football and NFL football basically every day. Not basically, actually every day. For 55 straight days, starting today.
55 today? Starting today?
Yes.
All right, who's playing tonight?
Good Lord. All right, hold on.
All right, go ahead.
I'm jumping around.
Let me hear who's playing tonight. It's Wednesday. Go ahead. Go ahead, Keon.
I'm working on it.
I'm ready.
I am working on it. It's just
Tell you what, let's take a break. When we come back, Keon will tell us who's playing football today. It's Wednesday. It's Wednesday at 3, which is 6 o'clock Eastern Coast. And he says there's going to be football games tonight. So let's take a break.
I didn't say that.
You said that.
24/7 Sports said that.
Oh, my God.
This is not me saying this.
All right. 24/7 Sports said that. And we're going to take a break right now. And then when we come back, Keon will tell us who's playing tonight. It's the Daily Blender on 1580 and 99.3, The Fanatic.
This is Brent Musburger's Action Update on 1580 and 99.3, The Fanatic.
Get insights into the sports betting market with VSiN's betting splits. See where the money is and keep updated on how the market is reacting. only at VSIN.com. Now, here are the latest lines from my guys in the desert.
College football, Arizona State home in Tempe on Saturday as they take on Kansas. The Sun Devils are 3-1, an 0-1 in the Big Ten. They are a 3-point home underdog, minus 105 against the spread. The Jayhawks getting the 3 points are minus 115. On the money line, Kansas plus 130, Arizona State minus 150 with the over-under point total at 50.5. Arizona home in Tucson as they take on Texas Tech. The Wildcats favored by 6, minus 225 on the money line. Red Raiders plus 190, over under 64.5. I'm Tony Desiri with your VSiN Action Update on 1580 and 99.3 The Fanatic.
After 3 years of legalized sports betting, something completely new is now live in Arizona. Dylan Cohen from Beat the Book here, and I'd like to introduce you to SportTrade. SportTrade is the first sports betting app that gives you the option to see the odds expressed as probabilities, and it's going to change in-game betting forever. If it's easier to understand 52% probability of winning versus minus 108 odds, SportTrade is your new home. With this percent odds feature, cashing out now makes much more sense. As the win probability changes, so does the value of your bet. Even if you're an experienced bettor and you prefer American odds, you'll love seeing odds closer to minus 106 versus the normal minus 110 offered just about everywhere else, coupled with near instant in-play betting. No more spinny wheels. Download SportTrade on your iPhone today to see the difference and beat the book. Use promo code 1580 to earn 10% cash back on every bet you place in your first week. Terms apply.
SportTrade is regulated by the Arizona Department of Gaming. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP.
Imagine your team always looking and feeling their best in high-performance technical workwear. Cintas can make it happen. They have garments for almost every job imaginable. And with the Cintas Workwear program, you get freshly laundered garments delivered every week for everyone on your team. Great garments without the bother of laundry. That's a real perk for employees. Find out how Cintas can boost team image and morale. Visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
We're going abroad for the first time in years, to Spain. So we started using Babbel.
And started learning Spanish fast.
With Babbel, you can start having conversations in another language in just 3 weeks.
¿Cómo te llamas? ¿Cómo te llamas?
When you learn a language, you want to actually use it. Babbel is designed with that goal in mind.
In just 3 weeks, we're starting to have conversations in Spanish. Gracias, Babbel.
Babbel, language for life. Now try Babbel for free at Babbel.com. That's Babbel.com.
Hey guys, Jeffrey O'Brien here. Did you know Harman Solar has gone super high tech? There's an amazing tool at HarmanSolar.com that'll give you an instant ballpark solar estimate using satellites from space. You just type in a little information, and within seconds, you'll have an idea of just how little money it takes to save big on that monthly electric bill. I did it, and within seconds, they measured my roof and calculated my savings. It's very impressive. Go to HarmanSolar.com and give it a try yourself. That's HarmanSolar.com.
What's up, everybody? Nick Costos here, host of You Better You Bet, reminding you to check out the show. Now, why should you check out You Better You Bet? Because we bring you the most fun. We bring you the most insightful, the most entertaining show in the wagertainment world. From up-to-the-minute breakdowns of backdoor covers, bad beats, and the cheers and tears that come alongside them. Plus, you'll get the best betting analysis anywhere from myself, Ken Barkley, and some of the best minds in the sports wagering world. So tune in weekdays, noon to 3 on Arizona Sports Betting Station, 1580 and 99.3, The Fanatic.
Yeah, welcome back to this Wednesday edition of the Daily Blender. Jeffrey O'Brien out until the 17th. It's me and Keon, sexiest person, sexiest man in sports talk radio.
Allegedly.
No. Allegedly. Come on. You are. Come on.
I appreciate that.
So Moist One says it starts tomorrow.
Yeah. I Googled it for myself, and then the page I was reading got blocked. Tomorrow is Thursday Night Football, and it starts the nonstop football of 55 days straight of football.
Tomorrow.
But
it's not today.
It's not today. I thought it was today from the way that the article started, but then my ad blocker got me kicked off the website, so I didn't get to finish reading it.
So Quiet Cannon says, can't believe what I'm hearing. Show really sucks so far. Thanks, you. Thanks, Quiet Cannon. Thank you. I don't know what to read next. I really. Walter Mellon says, thank you to all a sports book for all the football. Let's see. A golden Domer?
Golden
Maction? Domer?
Golden Domer. And he's talking about the,
Maction.
Yeah, the Thursday night football for college football, the MAC. Got some Maction on.
Beer Rob says, Keon, just play the Who's on first clip for Randy. That's
stop.
All right, let me try to get this squared away here. Big George. No, I'm sorry. The 4108. It's 55 straight days of football. There are games on Tuesday, and then
the way the text was worded, I thought he meant there were 55 days of football from now till the end of the season. But what the texter was really saying was there are 55 consecutive days of football starting tomorrow, and that's pretty damn cool. I am excited about that.
T-Licious says, "Go Tigers! F the cheating bastard." Astros.
Yeah.
Robert, out of surprise, says Houston out of the playoffs.
They are. Bounced. 2 games.
Yeah.
Nice little short stay. See you guys at home.
Trying to find my my page here, Keon. Good God. Average Joe. Would you look at that? The Astros can't win in the postseason without cheating.
It hasn't helped them that ever since they've been caught. The banging the trash cans and all of that stuff. It's pretty hilarious that they haven't really had any postseason success since then. I love it. That's funny to me. It'll never not be funny.
I can't find my
your little I can pull it up. Because we had our first thing
ahead.
is Devontae Adams.
Yeah.
Requesting a trade from the Raiders, and the Raiders, they've got some demands. They want
they do. They want a second round or and more.
A second rounder and compensation. I just don't see how that's going to happen. I think the Raiders have to be realistic about this. And people know you want to trade. They're not likely to give up everything. Devontae Adams will be 32 years old before the season is over. He's on the last year of a deal. So now I've got to give you a second rounder, which is a player that if I were to draft them, I would expect to start. And then on top of that, I have to also give you a player that's not happening. I'm sorry. There is no general manager in football dumb enough to do this.
I mean, come on. It's Devontae Adams. And if you're Jerry, come on.
If you're Jerry, you could do it. But do you think Devontae Adams makes you a Super Bowl contender? Because those are you think Devontae Adams makes the Dallas Cowboys a Super Bowl contender?
Yes.
We gave 40 points up to the Saints Cowboys. We haven't stopped the run in 3 weeks, Dallas Cowboys.
Come on.
That's not a Super Bowl contender.
Yes.
That's not a Super Bowl contender.
You've got to give Dak somebody to throw the football to.
CeeDee Lamb is not anybody?
Well,
I mean, you know what I mean? Like,
but now, if you have a second guy, CeeDee Lamb becomes somebody and Devontae becomes somebody because they can't guard both of the guys.
Yeah, it's going to make that offense better. But I think the Dallas Cowboys defense is where they need help. You know, I mean, you got CeeDee Lamb. Brandon Cooks is injured right now. So, but it's not a season ender. So I'm not going to, because he's dealing with an ankle, make a trade for Devontae Adams, knowing that this team needs to fill some holes. I mean, what you're essentially saying is our championship window is this year if you make the move for Devontae Adams, which is why.
I mean, I think it is for Dallas.
This year, and then do they think they're done next year?
Yes.
Okay. And that's the only way you make that move is if you think that it's this year or bust. And I just don't think the Cowboys even can consider themselves in that position just yet. Whereas a team like the Jets, because of the clock that's ticking on Aaron Rodgers, you've got to make some move, and Garrett Wilson all by himself, that's tough sledding for him. If you can add a Devontae Adams to that, somebody that Aaron Rodgers actually trusts a lot.
I mean,
but it's a Super Bowl bust year for the Jets. I just don't see that. For Dallas.
But Dallas. Remember Jerry saying when it's quiet in the Dallas Metroplex and you hear a howling, that's me in my mansion howling about a championship. Remember that dramatic. Oh my God! The fog is coming up and. You hear a howling. That's me.
I do not know what you mean by that, but I do think that when you're looking at what the Cowboys have, I think they've got to rebuild so much more. One wide receiver does not fix the problems that they have in Dallas. The fact of the matter is they don't have an interior defensive line. They don't really have a secondary that's playing consistent football weekly. They've got talented players, but it hasn't been consistent on that side of the ball. I don't think the offense is necessarily where they're struggling too much. And to the extent that they're struggling, it's like the decision-making of Dak just has to be better. I don't think that trading for Devontae Adams immediately makes you better. You need to fix your defense.
So if you add Devontae Adams, it doesn't help you. So what team?
It helps, but it doesn't make that team. It doesn't make them a Super Bowl team.
So what team does it make a Super Bowl contender?
I think the Jets. I really do. I think the Jets are one of those teams that you can make the argument.
So who are the Jets going to give up?
Great question. I don't know, which is why I struggle to understand why you would make this trade right now. That's exactly what I started with, which was if you make this trade right now, the Raiders don't want back a scrub. They want back one of your most talented players. Who are you willing to part with to bring in Devontae Adams? And I don't know who that is for Dallas. Kind of don't even really know who that is for New York, but at least with New York, if you get Devontae Adams, you make Aaron Rodgers happy. That seems like my favorite landing spot for this team. I kind of like the Ravens too, but it doesn't seem like something the Ravens would actually do.
Other than the Ravens, outside of regular people, all right. Let me ask you this: what team could surprise you?
What team could surprise me?
Yes.
I think
Eagles.
The Eagles would be very surprising because they already have two really good receivers. I think the Saints would be surprising, but it would also make sense.
Why?
Because I think that of all the teams that need a little bit more help on wide receiver and a little bit more help on that side of the ball, I genuinely think that the Saints could probably add a little help to Chris Olave and what that offense is, because when that offense had all of the spacing and were able to do a lot of creative things, they were rolling. And lately they've come back down to earth. They're still a very good football team. I think the defense is playing solidly, and I think that their offense can put up points, but I don't think that they're going to be the juggernaut that they were to start the year. I think that Devontae Adams could give them a shot in the arm. Can they actually pull it off? I don't know, because the Saints are always in cap hell and there's a bunch of other issues with that football team. But when you look at what they could use offensively to kind of jumpstart them, maybe pull ahead in that division, that seems to be at least a little bit crowded right now, with the Falcons playing a little bit better than we thought, the Buccaneers playing better than we thought. The Saints could really use that little boost to kind of catch them up to where the Buccaneers are, in my opinion. So I think the Saints would probably be it for
so
me.
you think Saints need a guy that can catch the football and score touchdowns, and you don't think the Jets are the guys that are going to get him? Get Devontae?
I don't know who's going to do it. I really find it hard to believe when the teams are playing. Man, I find it hard to believe that they've got a player they'd be willing to give up and a second rounder. Second rounders are incredibly valuable. You don't just give them away. And Davante Adams, need I remind you, is basically 32. He's 32. It's not that I don't think the Jets can. I think
he's not 32.
He's 30. He's 31 years old right now. He'll be 32 very soon. He's essentially 32. By the time the year is over, he will be 32 years old. So I just think the Jets can do it. Like, I think the Jets are more likely to do it. You said who's going to surprise me? I think the Saints would surprise me, but it would also make sense for them to do it. The Commanders would surprise me, though it would make no sense for them to do it.
What about the Cardinals?
The Cardinals would be a gigantic surprise, and it would also make no sense for them to do it.
So who else?
As far as surprises, or just okay? As far as surprises, maybe you're the Rams and you do it. Depends on what you feel about the Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua injuries, and what your championship timeline is. You are dealing with Matthew Stafford, who's getting older, and you're running out of time with him being your starting quarterback. So maybe you make that move for Davante Adams, and you make Matthew Stafford happy. You give him another target, and then it doesn't matter if Cooper Kupp, who's frequently injured, and Puka Nacua, who's on the IR, and I have no idea when he's going to be back. Better to have that than no receivers at all for Stafford on a team with an offense that can be very explosive and can be talented. And that's something that Sean McVay talks about all the time, is having an offense that's explosive and gets big chunk yardage. Davante Adams also seems like a kind of Matthew Stafford friendly wide receiver. I kind of like the Rams as far as that goes, but that would also surprise me because it doesn't seem like that's the way that the Rams operate right now.
All right, let's take a break. We come back. We'll talk more about it. 1580 and 99.3 The Fanatic.
The Fanatic is your home for fall football. Catch the NFL and NCAA live games on 1580 and 99.3 The Fanatic. Brought to you by Bet365. It's never ordinary at Bet365.
4 years. That's how long it took Democrats to ruin our economy and plunge our southern border into anarchy. Who helped them hurt us? Ruben Gallego. Washington could have cut taxes for Arizona families, but Ruben blocked the bill. And his fellow Democrats gave a bigger break to the millionaire class in California and New York. They played favorites and cost us billions. And Ruben wasn't done yet. Democrats could have secured the border. Instead, they invited an invasion and used our tax dollars to pay for it. Ruben Gallego even backed a law to let them vote in our elections. Don't give Gallego and the Democrats another 4 years to hurt us. Give your support to a real Arizona leader, Kari Lake. Kari and the Republicans will secure the border, support our families, and never turn their backs on us. Kari Lake for Senate.
I'm Kari Lake, candidate for U.S. Senate, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Kari Lake for Senate and the NRSC.
Mom, meet Sarah.
From first time Nana moments.
Yeah, welcome to Flight 101.
To annual girls trip moments. Your can't miss moments are worth protecting against RSV. If you're 75 or older or 60 plus with a chronic condition like asthma, COPD, heart disease, or severe diabetes, you're at higher risk of landing in the hospital from RSV. And there are no prescription RSV treatments. Check eligibility and schedule your RSV vaccine at vaxassist.com.
So where should we go next?
Sponsored by Pfizer.
Again, St. Bede's story. Jim was at the laundromat when he heard his ear said, "Maraca, senor," but his nose said, "Hey, freshest scent ever." Following his nose, Jim found a man pouring a bottle of Gain Scent Beads into the washer. The scent, the freshness. Jim blurted, Sir, your scent maracas smell amazing. Actually, Jim, most noses call them Gain scent beads. Try Gain scent beads. Way fresher than detergent alone.
Don't miss a minute of the action when Sun Devil football returns to Mountain America Stadium Saturday, October 5th, when they take on Big 12 rival Kansas. Swoboda throws, intercepted by Fiaseu. Cyrus Fiaseu is going to take it all the way in for an Arizona State touchdown. A pick six for San Diego State transfer Cyrus Fiaseu. Get your tickets today by calling 480-727-0000 or go online to sundeviltickets.com.
Championship weekend is coming back to the desert. 4 title races in 3 days means there will be a buzz in the air all weekend long. NASCAR Championship Weekend at Phoenix Raceway, November 8th through the 10th. Get your tickets now at phoenixraceway.com.
The most important event in sports could happen at any time. Like right now. Or right now. Or even now. Don't miss history. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, or at 1580thefanatic.com.
And we're back. Randy had to step away there for a second, and so he'll be back. We move forward. That's how things go here in show business. So we've got a full text line, a lot of football to talk about, so much football to talk about. A little bit of baseball, too. We've got the playoffs rolling around. But the fact of the matter is, Davante Adams, that's who we've been talking about the basically entire first hour up until this moment. I'll jump to the text line and see if we can clean up some things and get back to the conversation. Big George says, actually, the show sounds about on par for the course to me. Great job holding down the fort, Randy and Keon, while Jeffrey is gone. Isn't Golden Domer Jeff Bloom in Palm Springs? Big George, that's so meta for this show. I have no idea how to begin to explain that to anybody else. And also, now I'm holding down the fort for Randy, who's holding down the fort for Jeffrey. At this point, we are at inception levels of fort holding. So we're just going to have to move on. CK says, Keon, the Astros took the Rangers to a Game 7 in the ALCS. That's pretty successful. Also, take the whiskey away from Randy and get him some coffee. Randy hasn't been drinking any whiskey. That's just a fact. He's not having a great day though. So, that's stepping away right now to kind of handle some stuff. You just don't know what people are going through. So I would ask people to maybe not jump to conclusions based on what you think. And taking a team to a Game 7 in the ALCS is not the same thing as winning the World Series, which is what that team is built to do. I would argue by the standards of the what they have on that team and what they have on that roster, it in fact is not successful. That's just me. Harry Soap says if Davante Adams can play on the defensive line, be a running back and be wide receiver, then yeah, the Cowboys can sign him. I agree, Harry Soap. Like there are so many holes on that team that slapping Davante Adams onto the roster does not fix any of the problems that team has, not just straight up. Megatron says, Washington football team should be constantly calling the Raiders for Adams. I disagree, Megatron. Absolutely not. And I know they won't, by the way. I've heard people say, oh, it would be a great fit. It would be trendy. It would be sexy. No. Megatron also goes on to say they are the best team in that division with a last place schedule with a rookie contract. Can structure his extension for the next 2 to 3 seasons and be done once Jaden is up for a new contract. Jaden's on a rookie deal in year 1 of it, man. He's got 4 more years. Megatron. And can I just say, Davante Adams, you don't just get Davante Adams on a 1-year rental, give up a second rounder and a player that the Raiders want. I don't know who the Raiders want from the Washington Commanders. It's not exactly like it's a hotbed of talent on that roster. So I say that to say, no, I don't think that's a great idea. They have a last place schedule. Megatron, their defense sucks. You can have Davante Adams. I'll spot the Commanders' Davante Adams. My Washington Commanders' Davante Adams. And I'll tell you that does not make that team a Super Bowl team, which is the only reason you make that trade. You don't make it for any other reason, I promise. You can't do it. It simply can't be done. He's 32. He's going to want an extension, so you're going to have to give up the cap space that they have. They're the most cap flexible team in football. Then you're going to have to give up a player
that you would probably like to have moving on to the future. I would guess the Raiders would want a young guy. I don't think they want any of your players who are 30 as well. And then you're going to give up a second rounder. That's just bad business in the modern NFL. I really think so. But I appreciate the text, Megatron. Chosen One says the Saints don't have the cap room. Yeah, that's the reason why I said they'd surprise me. I mean, you got his guy Derek Carr there. You got the Saints offense looking actually good. It's just genuinely, a thing, right? they just, I don't know how they would have to figure out the cap space. However, the word on the street is, the report around the league is, they've picked up the phone. They've made some calls. They've had these conversations. So I'm inclined to believe that that's real and that they're going to try. But I agree with you, Chosen One. They probably shouldn't. That would be my strong guess. Chief Skull says, afternoon, guys. Hope life is well with Jeffrey not there. I think Devontae Adams ends up being traded to the Chiefs in a surprise. He also says, Keon, great that holding the fort down. You need a pay raise. I ask occasionally. I ask every now and then. CK says, I was joking about the Randy thing, but yes, it's baseball. ALCS is successful. Look, it is successful, but I know what that team wants. That team wanted multiple championships, and the roster and the payroll reflected that. Is the winning the World Series the only measure of success? If so, your logic says the D-backs last year was a complete failure. But I disagree, because you have to take into account what we thought of that team going into that season. If you thought that the D-backs were a World Series team prior to last season, you're lying. Nobody thought the D-backs were a World Series team. That's a tremendous amount of success for what that team is and what that roster is. For what the Astros are paying, and for who they have on the roster and what their expectations were preseason, ALCS is not successful to them. They want more. In the same way that if you're the Yankees and you've got enough money in a payroll and you feel like you've got the superstars, anything less than a World Series feels unsuccessful. If you're the Dodgers with that payroll, Shohei Ohtani, we're talking Mookie Betts, et cetera, Freddie Freeman, all the pitchers that they've got in that rotation. If you're the Dodgers, under no circumstances is less than a World Series successful. And that's the reason why they talk about firing Davey Roberts every year. Because that's not what success looks like to that organization with those expectations. I'm trying to put what the expectations are out there. 8073, who has texted a bunch of times, but has still somehow not found a texter nickname for reasons I am unclear on, says, what about Adams going to the Commanders? To which I say exactly what I was saying earlier. And no, because you can't be a team that's rebuilding and then give away the assets that you're trying to build with. Giving away young players is an asset you need for your future. Giving away your draft picks is an asset you need for your future. You can't give that stuff up to another rebuilding team. Because I'm telling you, that's going to be one of those trades where in 5 years, you look back and go, wow, the Raiders completely won that trade because for some reason the Commanders gave them Terry McLaurin and a second rounder. It just doesn't make any sense, especially when you consider how it is that teams are capable of drafting wide receivers. They draft wide receivers pretty well. It's one of the easier positions, and I'm putting that in air quotes. I am. But it's one of the easier positions to evaluate. You can land on a great wide receiver more easily than you can a lot of things. You don't have to give up the money, the cap room, and the assets to get a guy who's 32 years old. You have to look at his age. It does play a factor in here. He's 32. Is he going to be on the roster when Jaden Daniels is in his prime? I just don't think that's a great idea. Aiton's Army says plus 600 odds that Golden Domer is in fact Jeff Bloom over at BetUS. I didn't know BetUS took those odds. Aiton's Army didn't realize it. Navy Devil says if I'm trading for a receiver, I'd go after T. Higgins, only 25, and he's pretty good. That makes a whole lot more sense, especially when your quarterback's a rookie and your timeline is we want to be an actually competitive football team in 2 to 3 years. Because that's how long a lot of rebuilds take if they go very well. And even if they're ahead of schedule, you get that 2 to 3 years. The Commanders are already a little ahead of schedule. You don't need to give up assets to try and rush your way to a Super Bowl. You've got to do it the right way. You've got to do it the right way. And that means building for the long term. That means not giving away draft picks. That means not giving away young prospects. That means not filling up cap space for no reason. And that's the way that the Commanders have been run my entire life. So I'm so glad to see that we have people in that building. They're not going to do it. You know, you can suggest Adams to Commanders all you want to. It's not happening. Prison Wallet says Tampa or Atlanta. For Adams, I would say Tampa doesn't really make a ton of sense because you've got Godwin playing great football. You've got Chris Evans, who's finally been unlocked a little bit in the last couple of weeks for Tampa Bay. If Tampa Bay makes a move, I think they're going to want a position that's not loaded for them. They're pretty solid at wide receiver. As far as Atlanta goes, might help Atlanta. Yeah, I think Tampa, if they stand pat, probably wins that division. If you look at Atlanta needs a little bit of help. They need something to add to that Drake London. You know, Kirk Cousins looks better when he's got weapons around him. I kind of like Atlanta a whole lot better than I do Tampa. I don't think Tampa would even bother to make the move. I don't think they're picking up the phone. CK says, I found another hole in your argument. The Dodgers would consider getting out of the NLDS a success. What do you think about trading Ayuk for Adams and a low mid pick? We know Ralph Romano. I don't think Ralph Romano would consider his team making it out of the ALDS a success with the money that they've got on that payroll. LA fans would not consider that a success. So I don't think that argument has holes. I don't think the Dodgers' expectation is just get out of the ALDS. They are paying more for a baseball team than anybody else in the league. There's no way just getting out of the ALDS is success to them. He also says, what do you think about trading Ayuk for Adams and a low mid pick? Why would the Raiders want that? I guess because Ayuk would give you the talent back the other way. He's a younger player. The Raiders need to worry about rebuilding and not worrying about trying to get back a receiver right now to be successful right now. Take whoever they get as a young player. The Moist one says Forbes and a 7th for Adams. I mean, yeah, I would say I say the Commanders could pull that off if for whatever reason the Raiders were dumb and wanted a defensive back who can't cover and a 7th rounder. Something tells me that that's not going to work. And he says it's all for moot. He's going to the Jets. Now, I don't know if that's just like your speculation there, sir, or if you've actually seen something about that. We'll have to double check that at a certain point. But regardless, let's get back to the show today. We've cleared up the text line, and now we are ready to move forward because we've got Von Miller. He's going to be out as a result of being suspended for domestic abuse, violating the NFL's personal conduct policy. And the big question here is what does this exactly mean for the Bills? And I think it means a lot. The Bills are kind of reeling. They got punched in the forehead by the Baltimore Ravens not that long ago. And now here they are in a position where they are trying to figure out how to generate some offense. And they might have to figure out how to generate a little bit of defense too, because Von Miller looked good. Like he was starting to look a little bit like prime Von Miller. Not a lot, not completely, but he was starting to make some plays. It looked like they essentially told Von Miller, look, just pin your ears back and go after the quarterback. We're not going to ask you to drop in coverage at this stage in your career. We're not going to ask you to make a whole bunch of decisions. Just go get quarterback. See ball, get ball. And Von Miller was doing that. Von Miller was having success doing that. And now that he's out 4 games for, and 4 games does not seem even close to enough for what the reports on what happened with Von Miller were. I mean, they're talking about him grabbing a woman by her hair and beating her up and choking her. Like 4 games seems awfully short for what he was accused of doing. And by the way, this is an investigation that's been going on for a while. But regardless, what that means for the Bills defense is the guy that goes out there, finds the quarterback, hunts him down, brings him to the ground, and ends drives early for opposing offenses. He's not going to be out there. And I'm not saying that this is going to break the Bills defense because it's not like they built the entire defense around Von Miller, but he was a very important complementary piece who was making big time plays for a team that needs all the big time plays that they can get. Because when you have a game like last game where the receivers just don't show up, where Josh Allen doesn't look like Superman, he looks like Clark Kent. When you have those games, you really need your defense to stand up tall. You really need your that side of the ball to kind of make things more manageable for your offense. Maybe they don't have to come from behind to cover 17 points. Maybe they can come from behind and cover 3, cover 7. Those little things over the course of a football game add up. And what Von Miller was doing, I think, had something that could pay a ton of dividends for the Buffalo Bills. And this does not help. This absolutely does not help. This hurts the Bills defense in so many ways, because when we talk about football, talk about complimentary football. I don't know if you watched a lot of coaching press conferences or a lot of coaching interviews. That's a phrase you're going to hear thrown around all the time. And what that essentially means is that the front side of your defense and the back side of your defense have to work together. And without that pressure up front, that means that those safeties, those corners, they've got to cover just a second or two longer. And that's where a lot of mistakes get made. And the best quarterbacks in this league, they'll find a way to carve you up. They'll find a way to carve you up. So that it just makes the Bills worse, not having Von Miller out there. Taking a quick look at the text line really quick. T-Licious says, let me read this, pre-read this text really. You need to rephrase what the first words of that text are, T-Licious, but he said they need to alter their trade scenarios unless they find someone as stupid as Carolina was when giving away CMC. And yeah, like you can't. The Panthers gave Christian McCaffrey away for not very much. I don't think the Raiders are run that poorly. If they give away Devontae Adams, and I wouldn't say give away, if they trade it, that's going to be a return for them. They want a haul from that. They don't want just a thing here or there. They want a huge, massive return for Devontae Adams. Just give us a really good player on your team. Give us your second round pick, which I think is fair to ask. I mean, he's playing at a high level. It's just who is willing to do that? Who's desperate enough to do that? Maybe the Chiefs are desperate enough to do that. After all, if you don't have Rashee Rice out there, who's your number one receiver? Who's Patrick Mahomes throwing to? Sure, Patrick Mahomes is the guy that could make anything out of nothing, but I don't think that that's great to ask him to do that on a weekly basis. Lacrosse Guy says Von Miller is a scumbag and he only played 9 snaps against Baltimore. I'd release him. Lacrosse Guy, you'd release Von Miller because you're a good person. And I just need to remind everyone. The NFL as an organization and all the various teams that make up the NFL are not run by good people. So do I think that he's going to get released by the Bills? No, I don't. I think the Bills want to win a Super Bowl. And if they think Von Miller can help them do that, that's what they're going to do. Big George says, I hope Ralph is ready for the Padres to sweep the Dodgers out of the playoffs again. Dodgers, you stink. Amen, Big George. Amen. And Megatron says they are the best team in the division with the last place schedule. Oh, no, he already said that part. He said they will only get a pick. My guess is you're talking about the Raiders. The Raiders may only get a pick ultimately, but that's not what they're asking for right now. What they want is a pick and a player. So they've got the player. How desperate are the Washington Commanders? Well, they shouldn't be desperate at all. They're a rebuilding team, new GM, new coach, new offensive coordinator, new quarterback, new everything, new defensive coordinator. What's the rush? What is the rush to give your second pick away for a guy who's 32? Because here's how I can frame this for you, Megatron. That's like saying I'm drafting 32-year-old Devontae Adams with my second round. Would you do that with that team? Where, I mean, the upside of the Washington Commanders is that they've punted exactly once in 3 weeks. They've had one turnover in 3 weeks. But they needed all of that to win the games they were playing. Without those 30 points in the last 2 games, they're not winning those games. So the defense is not good. Fix that.
Work on that. Maybe use your second rounder on that. Don't worry about Devontae Adams. Your receiver will show up. And you won't have to break the bank for him. You won't have to use cap space for him. And you'll be better long term. We'll get to you, CK, on the other side. Daily Blender, 1580 The Fanatic. Hey, sports fans, we've got exciting news. Beat the Book is now on daily from 2 to 3 p.m.
That's right. Just before the blender, we're going to explore the world of betting along with you on the text line.
Send us your betting comments and questions. Speaking of which, Dylan, what do you think if I throw down $20 on my Washington Commanders to win the Super Bowl? They're 120 to 1.
I don't know about that one, Keon.
You got a better idea, Mr. Beat the Book?
Of course I do. Just tune into the Fanatic. You've always got better ideas.
So join us for Beat the Book, now at 2 p.m. daily on the Fanatic. Brought to you by Sport Trade, a new app coming soon to Arizona.
You may know me as Ruben Gallego, but I've had a lot of titles over the years. First, son, or mijo, by my single immigrant mom who works so hard to make ends meet, and brother by my 3 incredible sisters. I've been called janitor, line cook, construction worker, doing any job I could to help out since we didn't have much. I earned the title graduate from Harvard University. I was called infantryman in the Marines when my company took some of the heaviest losses in Iraq. I'm called congressman, proudly representing Arizona the past 10 years. But my favorite title of all is dad to my 2 beautiful kids, whose future I'm fighting for every day. That's why today, my title is candidate for Senate. I'm fighting to lower costs and secure our border. I'm Ruben Gallego, candidate for U.S. Senate, and I approve this message because for me, it's never been about titles. It's about standing up for hardworking Arizonans like you.
Paid for by Gallego for Arizona.
Mommy, want to play a game with me and Dad?
Mommy's not feeling good.
You need to vaporize that cold.
Vaporize?
Yeah, with Dayquil VapoCool. It's Dayquil plus a rush of Vicks vapors.
Whoa.
Come on, honey. Let's let mommy rest.
You guys are amazing. And so is Dayquil VapoCool.
Dayquil VapoCool, the vaporizing daytime coughing, aching, fever, power through your day medicine. And to vaporize sore throat pain, try Vicks VapoCool drops. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Hey everybody, it's Mark Asher back to tell you about my great friends at the Lund Mortgage Team. Did you know that the Lund Mortgage Team was founded back in 1999? That's right, they're celebrating 25 years in existence this year. And you know what you have to do to stay in business that long? You have to be good at what you do. And the Lund Mortgage Team is not just good, they are great. They have helped thousands of people save thousands of dollars over those 25 years here in the Valley of the Sun. They only lend in Arizona. And they're mortgage brokers, which means they can shop your rate around. They're not tied to just one set of rates. Mortgage rates can get crazy. They can get high. They can get low. There's good times to strike and there's times to stay on the sideline. Let the Lund Mortgage Team be your coach, be your team leader when it comes to these huge decisions. Call 623-875-9940. That's 623-875-9940, or you can always check them out at lundmortgage.com. Great website with all the tools you need. Call them today. They're my great friends, and you'll love them. It's the Lund Mortgage Team.
KQFN Tempe. Also transmitting on K257CD Phoenix at 99.3 FM and K240 EU Mountain Hills at 95.9 FM.
All right, people, settle down.
Because it's time.
Time for what?
Showtime.
When does it start?
Right now. 3, 2, 1.
Let's get on with the show. Let's do it.
Welcome back. Hour number 2 of the Daily Blender. I'm Keon Rose. Very suddenly sitting in for Randy White, who is sitting in for Jeffrey O'Brien, who is on vacation. This is a fill-in-ception right now that we have going on here. So appreciate you hanging in there for kind of interesting start to the show today and a interesting continuation, I'm sure. I don't have jokes. All I have is a very strong desire to talk about an awful lot of football and about 3 shots of espresso in my system. So let's see how this goes. CK says, because we left the text line, there were a few there. We're going to clean up and then we're going to get back to, whatever the hell we're talking about here. CK says, the funny thing is the talking head said the Niners gave up too much for Christian McCaffrey after the first season. With the Niners, that narrative changed. And I agree on that, by the way. Like it when you saw the Christian McCaffrey trade, I don't know what the talking heads were looking at because they have a tendency to see their own thing. But I think it was pretty clear and obvious. You had a chance to get Christian McCaffrey at that point. You go ahead and get Christian McCaffrey at that point. You know that there's an injury risk with him. Understandable. But he's 25-year-old running back with the production that McCaffrey already had in the league. All it had to do was work out a couple of years for the Niners, and it was a good trade. And guess what? It's worked out a couple of years, and I wouldn't rule out Christian McCaffrey this year either. But he's got tendonitis in both his Achilles, so they're working on that, and they're going to let him rest that out as they should. Just good common sense. But like when you look at the players, man, you've got to look at the age of the players and the contract that they have and what they want afterwards. You know, like that's the other thing is when you sign a guy and there's 1 year left in the deal, you're going to have to pay him. Do you have the cap space for that in addition to giving up a pick? And I just think it's unwise for most teams to be in that particular sweepstakes unless you think Super Bowl. He makes us capable of winning the Super Bowl. Bat Flipper says Cowboys, Bills, and Chiefs should be jumping on Adams. I think the Chiefs are crazy for not being the ones to pick up the phone. I'm not saying they need to be desperate, but you don't have Rashee Rice. Insane. I don't know that the Bills should be jumping to go get Davante Adams because I just think that Davante Adams doesn't play the position that they need the most help with. That's on the other side of the ball. That's that defensive line, that underachieving, can't stop anybody running the football defensive line that they have. You can have Davante Adams if you like, but if every single game has to be a shootout, I don't know that you're a playoff team that's capable of winning a Super Bowl, which for the Cowboys, every year we get closer to the day we no longer have Jerry Jones, that becomes a much more important thing all the time. And the Bills should have picked up the phone first. You know, I mean, after that showing last week against Baltimore, good God. You know, they're just your gamble on Keon Coleman being that guy. He's not that guy yet. He's not that guy. He's not the guy yet. Your Khalil Shakir outings, they're nice. They're nice. But he's not that guy either. So what are you going to do? Big George also says, hey, Keon, piggybacking off of that promo that you did with Dylan Cohen, if your Washington Commanders keep it up, they might actually win the Super Bowl. So take that bet at plus 5,000 odds. Couple of things with that, Big George. The Commanders aren't a Super Bowl team. They are surprising, and I'm happy to see how good they are. I really am. And this is not being self-hating Commanders fan. You can't win a Super Bowl with that defense. You simply can't. You need more there. The Commanders, just take your time, man. Take your time. Build around your quarterback. Get him an offensive line so that, you know, he can work from the pocket because Jaden Daniels is very good at working from the pocket. You don't have to rush. I'm also, unfortunately, here to inform you, Big George, that those odds are no longer plus 5,000. Vegas took one look at that and said, nope. So missed out on the odds when they were the best. Okay, so here's the thing. I did actually bet on the Commanders to win the Super Bowl, but it wasn't a $20 bet. It was a 50-cent bet. So the 50 cents can turn into like $150. It's pretty nice. But I didn't have real belief or I would have bet more money. T-Licious says, I'll take Adams and a second pick for Ayuk. Oh man. Look, if you're living with the Niners right now and you're watching Brandon Ayuk and the way that he's been playing, it's a little bit rough. Chief Skull says, Keon, you need a co-host. I'm free. Chief Skull, appreciate the offer, my friend, but I'm good. I think we'll be all right. This is not my first time hosting many long radio shows, much less this one. So we'll keep it on track, Chief Skull, and we'll see and review how it works. And then, you know what? If Radio Ron wants to give you a shot, he'll reach out, I'm sure. CK says, Keon, I missed Beat the Book today. Is it on the app? It should be. I know Dylan was in the other room editing it, getting it all set up and put out there. So I don't know if he's finished with it yet, but it should be sometime soon if it's not done already. Oaktown Destroyer says, do not trade Davante to the Cheats in the same division. Yeah, that's not happening. It's not happening. They should call because you just due diligence there. Due diligence. They should pick up the phone and call.
But just to be clear, it ain't happening. The Raiders are not that dumb. They're not. Megatron says, I've poked the bear enough. I just want to get you riled up. He will be a Jet for first or second with conditions. No chance the Chiefs get him. Raiders aren't doing that. 100% agree, Megatron. And yeah, no, I know. Look, people poke at me. I'm not as easily riled up as people think. I do it on the radio because it's funny. And my sense of humor, I don't know, what like Jeffrey's sense of humor is very, very dark. My sense of humor is very simple. I'm a simple person. Okay. If loud things are funny to me, loud is always funny. And so, yeah, no, I get loud because I think it's hilarious. And sometimes people think it's funny. And so I roll with it. But it's just me on the show. There's no contrast there. There's nobody to kind of take the quieter angle to make the loud stuff even funnier. So there's no point in me getting 100% rant mode because, the Commanders are being considered as a team that might make a move on Davante Adams. Also, they're not doing it, so there's no point in even getting angry about it. It's just not happening. CK says, Radio Ron, Keon definitely deserves a raise. Oh, I appreciate the raise lobby. I do. I don't know what effect it'll have, genuinely, but I appreciate the kind words. Chief Skull says it's okay to text, or it's okay. Text doesn't work well over the mic. I'm only funny on text. Look, we all have our spots. We all have our spots. I definitely think that I'm funnier in text. I don't try to tell jokes because, it doesn't end well. And the Chosen One says, in regards to Adams to the Chiefs, Raiders aren't competing this year. They are trying to rebuild. It says it bashes sense for both, but I think he says it makes sense for both. And I do understand that, by the way. I don't know that the Raiders would do it. Like, I just don't think that the way that team is constructed and the way that front office operates, I just don't think they do it. But if your timeline is different, I'm actually not the person that says you can never, ever, ever trade inside of the division. If your timeline is different than the other team, then why not? Like, if you don't think you're going to be competitive for 4 years, 5 years, which the Raiders are in that spot, along with my Commanders and, some other teams that are rebuilding. If you don't think that you're going to compete immediately, what difference does it make if you send him to the Chiefs and then he's done playing by the time you're actually ready to go? 4 years from now, Davante Adams will be 36 years old. He's not going to be the same Davante Adams that he is right now. There's a world in which that makes sense. I just don't think it's happening. Hamilton Porter says, not going to lie, I have watched all the postseason MLB games so far. The umps are atrocious. Hamilton Porter, what's new, man? What's new? I haven't gotten to watch all the games, but I did watch a little bit of the Tigers game earlier today. That was bad. That, just genuinely, when you get to the postseason, you're expecting at least the more consistent refereeing crews and the umpire crews. You're expecting the better crews, and just we haven't seen it. Just flat out. So far, this Major League Baseball postseason, and I don't want to be too negative too early. We're only 2 days in, but we haven't seen it. It simply has not occurred, and that's unfortunate because this is the spotlight on baseball. This is the time where even people who maybe don't watch baseball every day start to tune in. At least in October, this can't be the product you're putting out there. That's gross. That's gross, and Major League Baseball should be ashamed of themselves. Hefty Lefty says, the optimistic Broncos fan in me loves seeing them tied for second in the division and on a 2-game win streak. The realistic Broncos fan in me realizes they are tied for last in the division and are feeding us early season hope just to increase the disappointment later. Either way, I'm here for it, and somehow they will still lose to the Raiders this week for the 9th time in a row. I don't know how that's going to work out. I will say this, Hefty Lefty, that defense gives your team a puncher's chance of winning any game. Like you've got a chance to win any game out there with a defense like that. I didn't think that your team was going to hang with the Jets the way that they did. And it was the ugliest way you want to hang with the Jets, a 10-9 game. Hideous stuff. But I can't tell you that I didn't enjoy those two defenses being great. at each other. I think the Broncos have a chance to win any game, and certainly you can't pencil in a loss to the Raiders. I don't know how much faith I have in Bo Nix, because he's a rookie, but he's a rookie with a lot of limitations that I personally, at the NFL level, am not a fan of. However, that defense is legitimate. Patrick Surtain is a monster of a human being, and you should no longer throw the ball that direction. If you're an offensive coordinator and you're drawing up a game plan, the game plan should be, how do we find where Patrick Surtain is and throw where he's not? That ought to be the game plan. So lean into the optimism early. Why not? What could it hurt? I'm leaning into the optimism early. I don't think the Commanders' schedule is going to stay full of winnable games. That thing's going to get tougher, and all of a sudden, I'm going to have some coming back to earth to do. So while it's here, while it's happening, while I'm happy, I'm just going to lean into the optimism. I think you should too. Navy Devil says, I don't see the Raiders getting much for Davante Adams, older player with a big contract, who, by the way, Navy Devil's probably going to want an extension on said big contract. But anyway, continuing, the Cardinals get nothing for D-Hop. Same age, contract. Adams is a better receiver, though. And 100%. The Raiders are asking for a second and a player. And realistically, the only team they can convince to do that is the Jets. The Jets or the Bills. They're desperate enough to actually do it. And their goal this year is Super Bowl. That's the goal. You got, I don't know, maybe one more year of Rodgers if you're lucky. Goal has to be Super Bowl for the Jets. Get Rodgers, his guy Adams back. Yeah, you might have to give up a second rounder and a guy. For the Jets, that makes sense. For the Bills, that makes sense, because if you add Davante Adams to what the Bills do, yikes, look out below. But like that, those are the only teams I can really think of, them and the Chiefs, but we already talked about why that's likely not happening. Those are the only teams I can really think of where it makes a ton of sense to pull the trigger on that right now. I mean, what does it help the Titans that they got D-Hop, for instance? It doesn't. It in no way has that helped, except that D-Hop is another great wide receiver who went to Tennessee to waste the last years of his career, just like Julio Jones. It happens all the time. Hamilton Porter says, spotlight on baseball. Why the hell are the playoff games in the middle of a work day? And Hamilton Porter, the only the only answer I have for you, my friend, is that Major League Baseball sucks at scheduling. What else can I say on that? Like the fact that they didn't seem to have a backup plan for, what would happen if we had a hurricane hit in an area, and then we had to play a doubleheader. We had to play 2 baseball games with the playoffs on the line in the middle of the day. They could do better, but they won't. The Chosen One says, back to Adams to the Jets. Reddick and second round, Raiders improve their defense. That's Chosen One. That's a great trade idea. That's not a good trade idea. That's a great trade idea. I genuinely think that solves the Jets' problem, because they don't want to give up Reddick, because they know they're not going to get a whole lot in return. Adams would be a lot. Reddick doesn't want to play. He doesn't want to be there. He's being an absolute foul spot in that locker room. Why not move on from Reddick? Reddick's happy. Adams is happy. The Raiders get something back that they want. The Jets get a player that might help them be better and would make their quarterback happy, who's an absolute diva. So making him happy is perhaps the most important thing that you could do there. No, I like that idea a lot, Chosen One. I didn't think about it before, but thanks for the suggestion. I like that a lot. Let's see if they can actually pull it off. That's as close to the Raiders getting what they want as is possible to happen. Hefty Lefty says Jets versus Broncos was the game of insurmountable 1-point leads and punishment for anyone who watched it. It's punishment for anyone who watched it, but the way I watch football, Hefty Lefty, is that I like to watch matchups if the game's not good. So if I can't get any entertainment value out of the overall game, but there's a great offensive line versus a great defensive line, that's where my eyeballs stick the entire game. I don't even watch the ball at a certain point. And if anytime I watch, if I see Patrick Surtain on the screen, I'm following him. Not even concerned with where the ball is, because just the way that he plays the game of football
is fascinating to me. He's physical, but he's really smart too. And he's getting the best of receivers very regularly. They paid him this year. And quite frankly, I think that's a great idea. Commando Duke says, I think too many people are starting to think too highly of us. The Commanders, that is. Because Commando Duke, not unlike myself, Commanders fan. I didn't even know there were multiple of us in this city. So I'm glad to have you here, Commando Duke. He's also saying, from the time the schedule came out, I'm sure Cliff and Daniels had the game scheduled on their calendars. Cliff was returning to the team he was fired from. Daniels coming back to the desert. They were going to give their absolute best. Our O-line is terrible and our defense has a lot of holes. Commanders are not trading for Adams. Commando Duke, if I ever meet you, if I see you at a remote, firm handshake, dude. Firm handshake. Because that's just a fact. That's just a fact. If you watch the Commanders play football, really watch them, that is a team that needs help in so many places. Davante Adams doesn't fix anything and has the potential to make your future worse, not your present. He'll make your present amazing. He's Davante Adams. He is still a great receiver. He's not at the peak of his prime, but he is still in it. But that doesn't help a whole lot. And also, Cliff opened up the playbook absolutely against the Cardinals. It was a conservative Commanders offense week 1. It was a very conservative Commanders offense week 2. It opened up a little in week 3 against Cincinnati. That was a different football team in week 4 against the Cardinals. Just without question, absolutely. It was a different, brand new football team. I've never seen that team. Whatever they put on the field, I hope they keep doing it. I hope Cliff can keep it up. And I have seen some growth from Cliff Kingsbury. There are things he's doing in Washington now he wasn't doing when he was out here. But absolutely, this was a revenge game for Cliff Kingsbury. I think he wanted to pants the Cardinals. I think he wanted to make the Cardinals look bad. Point proven. Cardinals came out flat-footed and Cliff got what he wanted, which is he got to light up the scoreboard on his old team. And Jaden Daniels wants to put out a good show for the people out here. The ones that used to watch him in college. Without question, I think people are overcorrecting on the Commanders now. The Commanders are better than we thought they were going to be. That doesn't mean they're still good. They're going to get there. I feel very confident about that now that I've seen the way that things have worked out with Jaden Daniels and this team. They're going to get there, but it takes time. You don't rush to a Super Bowl. You don't just hire a new coach and then you're just in the Super Bowl for the most part. It rarely happens. That it's a building process. I think the Commanders are on that. And then the Chosen One says, and this is the last text right here, appreciate the props. Radio Ron needs to give you a raise. All right, man. Well, I appreciate that. I don't think I can keep reading those texts. Now it just sounds like I'm trying to say something or make a statement or make a point. I don't like to cause drama in the workplace, you guys. You know that. I got to show up here every day. I don't want to start anything, but I appreciate that you agree. All right, we got a lot of show to get to. We really didn't move forward with some of the things that we could be talking about. Sprinkle a little college football in here, though. We're not going to do any picks today. We're going to save that for the dance party. But we're going to talk a little Cam Rising. Take a look at the NCAA top 25, the AP top 25, and see what's going on there. And perhaps a little bit more right here on the Daily Blender on 1580 The Fanatic.
It's fall football on The Fanatic. Catch all the live game play-by-play, Monday night, Thursday night, and Sunday day and night NFL games, plus the Saturday NCAA football game of the week. It's all right here on the Valley's home for football. 1580 and 99.3 The Fanatic, brought to you by Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same, but is 95% cheaper? And you can get it online? Go to hims.com/joy. Through Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, and the process is 100% online. To start your free online visit, go to hims.com/joy. That's HIMS.com/JOY.
Imagine your team always looking and feeling their best in high-performance technical workwear. Cintas can make it happen. They have garments for almost every job imaginable. And with the Cintas Workwear program, you get freshly laundered garments delivered every week for everyone on your team. Great garments without the bother of laundry. That's a real perk for employees. Find out how Cintas can boost team image and morale. Visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
Let's say you've got questions. You're looking into solar, but you don't know where to start. Well, Harmon Solar has the answers. Hi, I'm Jeffrey O'Brien, and listen, there's a couple of ways you can go here. One, visit harmonsolar.com, browse around, because right across the page, they got links to all sorts of great information, like frequently asked questions, equipment, tax credits, even testimonials. Or just give them a call, 800-281-3189. Ask them directly. They'd love to hear from you. That's 800-281-3189. Or just go to harmonsolar.com.
Don't miss a minute of the action when Sun Devil football returns to Mountain America Stadium Saturday, October 5th, when they take on Big 12 rival Kansas. Svoboda throws, intercepted by Piaseu. Cyrus Piaseu is going to take it all the way in for an Arizona State touchdown. A pick six for San Diego State transfer Cyrus Piaseu. Get your tickets today by calling 480-727-0000 or go online to sundeviltickets.com.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Ken Barkley here, reminding you to check out You Better You Bet. Why, you ask? Well, because we bring the fun, the insight, and all the wagertainment you need. Plus, hopefully, we win a couple bets along the way. From up-to-the-minute breakdowns of backdoor covers, bad beats, and the cheers and tears that come with them, obviously. Plus, betting analysis from some of the best minds in the sports wagering world. Join myself and Nick Costos and tune into You Better You Bet. Weekdays from noon to 3 on Arizona's sports betting station 1580 and 99.3, The Fanatic.
Okay, we're back. And I appreciate that, CK. Thank you. I'm not going to keep pounding the drum for it because, you know, maybe he's in the building right now with me. Who could say? But Swazman says, Keon, so much talk about your Washington team. Which, before I finish this text here, Swazman, can you blame me? There's actually a Washington team worth talking about for the first time in a very, very, very long time. I didn't mean to go on that long about the Commanders, but Commando Duke, my fellow Commander fan, texted me. So I did do that. If you want me to go in any other direction, Swazman, you know what to do. 888-368-1580. You're already texting. If you want the show to go in another direction, you know, text it. We'll go there too. Daniels has played well so far, but defensive coordinators are like sharks in the water against rookie quarterbacks, so you guys might end up 4-13. Agreed, Swazman. That's exactly what I was saying before break. I don't think that this team is a playoff team yet. The offense looks incredible. Daniels looks like he belongs in the NFL. He looks good. He is going to have a little bit of a regression. He is going to come back down to earth a little bit at some point. When you look at the teams that are coming up on the schedule for the Commanders, like the next three teams, those look like winnable games. So I doubt this team is going to finish 4-13. They're probably going to win one or two of the next three. But you look at the tail end of that schedule, that's not easy. That's a lot of dangerous stuff. And even to start the year, when you look at what the Commanders went up against in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and that Todd Bowles defense, Todd Bowles versus rookies, that's scary. and he got to Jaden Daniels in that game. And there are going to be other defensive coordinators who go, okay, I see what you're doing, Rook, but here, stop this. And he's not going to be able to because he's a rookie. That's how that's going to go. Bat Flipper says T. Higgins at a second rounder for Adams. Raiders can pay Higgins, and he is younger. He is. He's 25. I think he has number one wide receiver potential. And guess what? If you draft your quarterback of the future this season, which the Raiders probably will, then you're going to have your young quarterback be able to play with a receiver who's around his age and a guy that's been in the league long enough to be able to make his life a little bit easier, be that veteran presence, that veteran target he can throw the football to. That's not a crazy trade idea there, Bat Flipper. Hefty Lefty says, didn't make a lot of headway on the rundown last segment because of the text line.
There is the proof that there is no drop off when Keon runs the show. I'm not. I don't know. I mean, the text line there is kind of saving me a little bit because I like talking to you guys, but also some of these topics that Randy and I hashed out before the show were supposed to be a conversation, and I can't have that conversation by myself. So, there's just the conversation that I'm having with the fourth dimension right now. That's you guys, 888-368-1580. You've probably never had a better chance of having your text read than today. Just putting that out there. But I don't know about there being no drop off, but I appreciate that, hefty lefty. It does mean a lot. Big George says that Xerxes Viservos and Tim Healy mentions in the ASU ad the same guy that is starting to tear things up as a wide receiver for the Bengals. Big George, I don't know if I follow that text. CK says the Cliff Commanders aren't just good. They're on top of the NFC East. They are. But I need people to pump the brakes on the Commanders because the NFC East is every single year, at least for my entire time watching football, and I've been watching NFC East football since 1998. Every year, every team in that division is on the verge of being a dumpster fire. But also every team in that division feels like they can just go ahead and win the division and walk off. I watched my team win the division a few years ago with a 7-9 record. So top of the NFC East, I just don't know how proud of that to feel. Chief Skull says, I am realistically optimistic that the Vikings may be 4-1 after this weekend. Playing Rodgers after a horrible week and playing in London, this is an easy trap game for the Vikings. It is. It is an easy trap game. Anytime you travel to London, and look, the sooner you can do that, the better. I don't know when the Vikings left Minnesota to go play in London. Get there as soon as you can. That's what most of the coaches have been doing lately. We'd love to do our usual week the way we do in our building and keep as much of the routine the same. I'm telling you, get to London as fast as you can. Then Rodgers, after the horrible game, is going to have his opportunity to redeem himself. And the thing that's really interesting about Rodgers having that opportunity is he's going up against the Vikings defense that is legitimately terrifying. They blitz more than any other team in the National Football League, and they bring the house often. There's also different things that their defenders do as far as communicating post snap that almost no team in football is doing. Pre and post snap, those players are out there talking. You almost don't see that because teams can't afford to have that same level of commitment from, multiple defensive players because of how reactive a defensive unit has to be in the NFL. You have to be able to just know what your job is, know what your assignment is, and then go do that. If you're changing that stuff on the fly, it gets weird. It gets a little odd. The Vikings have been very good about doing that stuff, though. Nobody else can really say that. Brian Flores has allowed these players to be able to check in and out of things to like you see an offense do when they look at a defense they don't like. When this defense sees an offense they don't like, they can change the play. I don't know if I've ever seen a better coached unit of football players on the defensive side of the ball in what I would consider the modern NFL go from 2015 to now. That's hard to pull off with what this unit is, and they've been able to be successful each and every week for the most part. But high-level quarterback play can beat a team that blitzes this much. So we'll see which Aaron Rodgers we get, and that'll determine whether or not the Vikings win or lose. Ghetto Girl says, can you stop talking about the Commanders and talk about how much the Cardinals suck? Ghetto Girl, no, I'm not going to talk about how much the Cardinals suck. If you want me to talk less about the Commanders, though, you can get me to talk about something else. I'm not going to talk about how much the Cardinals suck because the Cardinals are 4 games into a football season and they kind of are what we thought they were a little bit. I think I was high on the Cardinals. I thought the Cardinals were going to make big strides forward this year. And I still think they're doing that. But my expectation of the Cardinals wasn't playoffs. I didn't even think playoffs yet. I wasn't there because you're in year 2 of a new regime. And you just need to give these guys time to cook. You need to give Jonathan Gannon some time. You need to give Drew Petzing some time. These guys are young, and they're going to have to figure some stuff out. Monty Austinford is trying to restock a pantry, restock a cupboard that, to be honest, is empty. It's empty. There's nothing happening there. The Cardinals aren't a talented football team. They have talent. I'm not saying they don't have any. I'm saying they don't have enough. Okay? Don't know how you feel about Kyler Murray. I think he's got all the talent in the world, but he's got to execute. He's got to go out there and play much better than he has been. But James Conner, that's talent. Marvin Harrison Jr., that's talent. You know, you look at Budda Baker, that's talent. But they need more, and they need more in more position groups. They need more on that offensive line. There's not enough. They need more in that wide receiver room. I like Dortch, and I like Harrison, but it's kind of up and down every week. I think that they need a little bit more on the defensive side of the ball, and you can pick your level there. They need more in the secondary. They need more at linebacker, even though I do like the way that Zaven Collins has looked so far. And they need more at defensive line. And part of that is injuries. I understand that. But I'm not going to talk about how much the Cardinals suck, because my expectation of the Cardinals was not necessarily the same level that a lot of the fan base had, because a lot of Cardinals fans were insanely high on the Cardinals, and I was very high, but I wasn't playoff high. I wasn't Denver, Colorado high. I was just like, hey, I'm very optimistic that this team's going to get better and win more games, and I still think that. CK says the Cliff Commanders. Say it right, Keon. The Cliff Commanders. They're fair. Okay, they're fair. Well, I just, it's still hard for me, CK, to say his name. Okay, I'm only just now starting to respect Cliff Kingsbury, so you're gonna have to give me some time with that. Hefty Lefty says I have conversations with myself all the time. I don't care that my psychiatrist said that it's concerning and signs of a bigger issue. What does that guy know? You know, I mean, he's never had a great conversation with himself. He has no idea, none whatsoever. Chief Skull says, can we talk about Big George and his impersonation of a teacher? Mrs. Chief Skull is worried for Big George when she heard what happened. I'm worried for Big George. Mrs. Chief Skull has every right to be worried about Big George, because just genuinely, Big George didn't make up a person. The teacher was a real person, and I don't understand why he thought that was a good idea. I'll never, for the life of me, grasp that one. Big George, you've got me every shade of confused, my dude. Swazman says, you're a good fill-in host. Better than Filthy Phil the fill-in. We all like your show. By the way, in fantasy football, should I drop Rashee Rice or wait for him to get on IR? I would wait for him to get on IR. Like, what does it cost you to just wait and see? You've got the IR spot for a reason, unless those IR spots are full for you already, which I have a league where that's the case. Unless they're full, I would put him there and just see what could it hurt. The upside is you have the opportunity to have a Rashee Rice, come back for you, and you also don't have to drop him to get another player. I would wait. Let's see here. Chosen One says, with Chubb potentially coming back this week, how much does that impact the game against your Commanders? Let's take a look here and see. I think it affects it a lot. The Commanders can't stop the run. I'm trying to be nice to my own team here now that they're not disappointing me every week. I do think they struggle to stop the run. The Chubb addition does change some things. I'd have to look at it and see how I feel about, the Browns defense and how the Browns play teams that play like the Commanders do. But yeah, obviously that changes the math at least a little bit. Seabass says, hi there, Blender crew, which today seems to be just Keon Rose. Thank you, Seabass. It is just me. I am the crew today, sadly. I was wondering if you were watching the Kansas City Royals on the verge of eliminating the Baltimore Orioles. These AL Central teams are actually pretty good, despite all the knocking they got for supposedly just making the playoffs for beating up on the White Sox. Over. Good. Seabass, that's a good point. Because here's the thing with playing a bad schedule. Sometimes we just genuinely don't know how good a team is. We have no idea. You're trying to figure out, is this a for real team? Are they legit? And you do have to take into account strength of schedule. But I do think sometimes we overdo it and we take into account strength of schedule, not realizing the players that played the White Sox multiple times a year, they didn't ask to play the White Sox. That's just a coincidence. And them beating the White Sox is what they're supposed to do. That's not proof that they couldn't beat tougher teams. That's just proof that they were playing the team on their schedule. You can only take the test in front of you. And maybe we did. Maybe we did underrate those teams quite aggressively. Oh my God, the text line's flooding. We're making this happen today. Amaya D says, preach. Totally agree with you. I genuinely don't remember what for because I'm just jumping all over the place trying to get to every single text here because I appreciate you guys. And also you're kind of saving my bacon a little bit. Big George says maybe Cliff Kingsbury wasn't the problem in Arizona. Maybe it was Steve Keim, Kyler Murray, and ownership. And I would say, Big George, all of the above. Cliff Kingsbury's not using the same plays that he was here. He started off that way. It looked like same old Cliff Kingsbury. And then you look a little bit at that Cincinnati game, and I was like, oh, that's different. Cliff's also got a bigger commitment to running the football than he did when he was here. Cliff has also put Jaden Daniels under center a whole lot more than Kyler when he was here, which may be a little Cliff because Cliff was big shotgun guy when he first got to Arizona. But it also might be a little bit of Kyler. Like you put Kyler under center, he's going to have to step back further before he can actually see anything. So having him play out of shotgun maybe had a lot to do with that as well, because the Cardinals still play a lot out of shotgun, just not nearly as much as when Cliff was here coaching the team. Steve Keim absolutely is a factor in all of this. He was bad at drafting forever, just really bad at drafting, and kept drafting linebackers that weren't panning out. One of which seems to be panning out now that the coaches are good. So all of the above. It was a little bit of Cliff. It was a little bit of Kyler. It was a little bit of Keim, and it was a little bit of Bidwell. I don't think that you can have an organization that's stuck in neutral like that and it be the fault of exactly one guy. It's always multiple. It's always a lot. Ringless Joe says, let's go Tigers. Swept those Astros right out of the running, and when the Astros lose, America wins. And Ringless Joe, that's true, because they're a bunch of dirty, rotten cheaters, and they can burn in hell. Until that roster is completely devoid of every person that was there when they were cheating, that's how I feel about the Astros. I don't want good things for anybody involved in that garbage. I just don't. That's not what the game of baseball is supposed to be about. Yeah, you can make certain decisions and you can try to get an edge or an angle. I'm okay with that. But when you start breaking the rules, when you start bringing technology into it, when you start taking away from the integrity of the game, that's where I've got a problem. Screw the Astros. I hope they never win again. Genuinely. And I say that as somebody like the Astros were a team that I liked growing up. They weren't my team, but I lived in Texas and I don't know. I just didn't want to root for the Rangers. I just thought the Astros were cooler. So I went to a few Astros games. I liked them, but you know, they've lost me forever. I'll never root for that team in any capacity. It's just hard to. I see on the text line a text from Teacher Lady, and I'm not reading that, Big George, because it's you, because we know it's you. It's not as fun or interesting now that we know that it's you. You can't, as Teacher Lady, the person you're impersonating, respond to other people on the text line when we know it's you and you're using your main account. This is the weirdest burner phone situation I've ever seen. What are you getting out of this, Big George? What is there to gain here? All right. Chief Skull is going to be the last text, and then the text line is flowing like my guy Randy White says, like a bottle of Drano. I still don't know what that means, but he says it a lot. So this is the last text I'll read. We'll go to the break. We'll come back, and then we'll have a whole lot more fun right here on the Daily Blender. Chief Skull says, how does the Chubbs edition work? Didn't he golf and lose a hand to an alligator? You're making a reference I don't understand. And I'm sorry. So on that bombshell, we'll go to break. We'll come right back. We'll get to Kyle G, Quiet Cannon, Mr. Pink Eye, all of you waiting on the text line right here on the Daily Blender on 1580, The Fanatic.
Breaking news coming in from Bet365, where every nail-biting overtime win, breakaway, pick six, three-point shot, underdog win, buzzer beater, shootout, walk-off,
And absolutely every play in between is amazing. From football to basketball and hockey to baseball, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. 21 plus only. Must be physically located in Arizona.
Is reviewing life insurance on your to-do list? Now's the perfect time to add it. A friend recently told me that securing life insurance sooner rather than later can help you lock in lower rates for years to come. So I bumped this up on my list and got it done. I called SelectQuote and couldn't believe how easy and affordable life insurance is. I'm 40 and got a $500,000 policy for $16 a month. My husband's also 40, and his $500,000 policy was only $18 a month. Plus, with SelectQuote's same-day coverage, there was no medical exam required, and we were covered by the time we hung up. Knowing I have this checked off my list feels amazing, but the peace of mind knowing my family is protected feels even better.
Call SelectQuote at 1-800-880-6363. That's 1-800-880-6363. Or go to SelectQuote.com to get your free quote today. 1-800-880-6363. Details on example rate at SelectQuote.com.
Mom, meet Sarah.
From first time Nana moments
Yeah, welcome to Flight 101.
to annual girls trip moments, your can't miss moments are worth protecting against RSV. If you're 75 or older or 60 plus with a chronic condition like asthma, COPD, heart disease, or severe diabetes, you're at higher risk of landing in the hospital from RSV. And there are no prescription RSV treatments. Check eligibility and schedule your RSV vaccine at vaxassist.com.
So where should we go next?
Sponsored by Pfizer.
We are getting ready to crown a champion.
Championship weekend is coming back to the desert.
Let's get this party started.
4 title races in 3 days means there will be a buzz in the air all weekend long. Whether from the grandstands, the infield experience, or the hillside, this is your chance to witness history and make championship caliber memories for the whole family. NASCAR Championship Weekend at Phoenix Raceway, November 8th through the 10th. Get your tickets now at phoenixraceway.com.
Everybody's got a podcast these days. Comedy, politics, true crime, you name it. But how many actually teach you anything useful? Harman Solar has an entertaining podcast that is vital if you've been thinking about looking into solar, but you don't know where to start. Ralph and Ben explore the intricacies of utilities, equipment, processes, and more. Their primary objective is to educate and empower you to make informed decisions on your solar journey. So increase your knowledge, not your bills. Go check it out right now. It's the Harman Solar Podcast at harmansolar.com.
Download the Fanatic app. News, scores, social media updates, and more on your smartphone, on your tablet. The free Fanatic app, available at the Google Play Store or the App Store and at 1580thefanatic.com.
Let's move along, shall we? We are making a little bit of headway here. I'm getting roasted on the text line, I tell you. And rightfully so. There's a Happy Gilmore reference that Chief Skull was referencing. The golf, the hand lost to the alligator. No, I just didn't think of it, guys, at the time. I've got like 6 texts saying, "Yeah, have you not seen Happy Gilmore?" I have, actually. The problem with this is, and I'm learning this right now, I need to go back and watch Happy Gilmore. I haven't seen Happy Gilmore in, I don't know, 15 years. I watched it. I loved it. It was great, but I don't think I've watched it enough to be able to quote it. And it just genuinely did not come to mind in that moment. I have no idea why, but I appreciate that. Everybody who's letting me know. Oh, which I deserve that. I deserve that. Kyle G says, "Let's go Tigers. This is an unexpected but welcome surprise." Agreed. And, you know, everybody loves an underdog. Tigers are underdogs right now, and I like them a lot. Quiet Cannon says, "Can the Arizona Cardinals win 5 games this year?" Well, let's re-examine the schedule, because it felt like they could win maybe 8 this year, 8, maybe even 9 in a very lucky situation at the beginning of the year. And it looks like that's not necessarily the case. And for a lot of NFL teams, you kind of have to reevaluate some things. But for the Cardinals in particular, yeah, you've got to look at them a little bit differently. I still think that they're very competitive in terms of how they're coached and how their players show up for games for the most part. The last week was not good.
but the schedule looks tougher now than it did at the beginning of the season. There's some teams that, it felt like, no, there's a winnable game. And some of these games do not look as winnable anymore. So let's take a look at next week, this week, upcoming, at San Francisco. That does not feel like a win, does it? Doesn't feel like a win to me. Then they've got Green Bay. They're in Green Bay October 13th. That also does not feel like a victory at this particular moment in time. Then they host the Chargers, which still feels a little winnable, but it's less than it was because Jim Harbaugh, that Chargers team shows up to play. That team shows up to ball out all the time. And Harbaugh, the guy just wins. Like you see it with the Chargers now that he's there. There are just games that they are always in. They're taking on the Chiefs. That game feels like it should be a blowout in favor of Kansas City. It's not. They lose to the Steelers, but like, look at what the Steelers are. This is a Chargers team. I don't know that that's a penciled in victory, but I'll say that that's a winnable game for the Cardinals. Then they've got the Dolphins, which suddenly feels very winnable. In fact, you should be disappointed if for whatever reason Tyler Huntley and those Miami Dolphins get a victory against the Arizona Cardinals. Then the Cardinals have the Bears, and the Bears have a very tough defense. But if you can't get the better of Caleb Williams, what are you doing? Like that's the part of the schedule that ought to get you to 4 wins. If you can manage to pull that off, it's not a bunch of gimmies, but you've got to figure it out. Then they play the Jets. I don't know that you can necessarily pencil that one in as a victory either. In fact, I would say that you can't. Then they've got the bye week, which fortunately is a bye week. And then they go to Seattle, which does not feel like a win. They go to Minnesota, which does not feel like a win. They host Seattle, which also does not feel like a win until they get the Patriots. And that one feels like it could go either way because the Patriots offensively don't have anything. The Patriots defensively, though, that's tough. That's very tough for what the Falcons are and have been. And then you close out the season at Carolina, which could be a win, at LA, which I don't even know what to make of the Rams anymore. And then they close the season out with the 49ers. So do I think the Cardinals win more than 4 games this year? To answer your question, upon re-examining the schedule, I think they can win 5. I still think they can win 5. Yeah, there's the schedule. The schedule loosens up a little bit in the back half of the year, but boy, it's going to look ugly before it looks better. I'll tell you that. Mr. Pink Eye says maybe Raven Kid should go help you host the show. He has experience. Raven Kid has the 1 day of experience. I've seen the day of experience he's had. It's not. I mean, look, I like him. He's a cool dude, but that's I think I'll be okay. Do I not sound okay? I think I sound fine. Regal Beagle says, you actually took the time and energy to bet 50 cents on your Commandos. What are you, 12? Maybe start saving so that now you can bet $5 or $10 next year. No, Regal Beagle, I'm not 12. I'm 34. 12-year-olds can't bet. Have you ever read the guidelines there? Come on, Regal Beagle, get it together. What am I, 12? What do you think? There's a 12-year-old with a driver's license who can sign up for Sport Trade? Stop it. Just stop it. Now you're not making any sense, Regal Beagle. Hamilton Porter says, no, seriously, great time to be a Detroit sports fan, especially since the NBA hasn't started. As long as you don't have to think about the Pistons, it's not bad. Like the Red Wings, I think the Red Wings can fix themselves. The Pistons, I don't know what to make of the Pistons. And as long as you don't think about them, if you just close your eyes, not if you're driving, everybody who's at home, you just close your eyes and imagine a world where the Pistons don't exist and you happen to root for Detroit teams, your life is instantly better. You're welcome. Beer Bob says, hey, leave my White Sox alone. They won 5 out of their last 6 games. If the Diamondbacks would have done that, they would be in the playoffs. And before you start ripping me, yes, I'm a Diamondbacks fan and a White Sox fan. Well, first off, Beer Bob, I understand. I hear you. I don't know why the Diamondbacks had to catch strays in your analysis just now. I'm not certain why that had to be the case. But all right. And I'm not going to rip you because my name is not Jeffrey O'Brien. My name is Keon Rose. I rip people who are mean, usually. I'll argue with anybody, but I'm not going to rip you. T-Licious says 3-way trade. Niners get Reddick, Jets get Adams and Raiders get Ayuk and a second from the Niners and a second from the Jets. So that makes the Raiders even happier, I bet. Well, it depends on how the Niners feel about Ayuk. Do the Niners feel like Brandon Ayuk is a lost cause? Because, man, it's only been 4 games since they signed him to the deal, to the long-term deal, and he missed a lot of camp. And we've seen this specifically with the Niners before, that when they've had to pay guys and those guys have had to miss time, with the exception of Trent Williams, they do not come back quite the same football player until about halfway through the year. So are you just giving up on Ayuk like that and saying, you know what, we want Devontae Adams so bad? Or sorry, we're getting Reddick that bad and we're giving up on Ayuk, we're moving on? Sure. I mean, do the Niners need Reddick? He makes them better because he's a really good football player. He'd make anybody better. But do they need him to the point where they'd give up a second rounder? I mean, maybe. Also, the Niners are one of those teams, they like to stockpile draft capital. So I don't know that they're just giving up a second rounder. But if you could get Reddick back, like I don't think that that's wrong. CK also roasting me about the Happy Gilmore thing. Look, I'm sorry, okay? Big George says, breaking news, the Kansas City Royals have eliminated the Baltimore Orioles 2-1 to play the New York Yankees in the next round. Go Royals, best the Yankees. Because, around here, we're not exactly big Yankees fans. We're just keeping it nice and leaving it there. Thank you, Big George. Silver Pop says, just tuned into the show. Keon, outstanding job holding it down. So did I just hear that Big George is doing an impression of Mrs. Doubtfire? Big George isn't just doing an impression of Mrs. Doubtfire. He damn near is Mrs. Doubtfire. He damn near is Mrs. Doubtfire. And he's still texting. Here's the thing. It would be like if Mrs. Doubtfire got caught, like Robin Williams does in the movie, and then you just continue right on being Mrs. Doubtfire as though nobody knows that that's who that is. Big George is texting me as teacher lady, as though we don't know it's Big George. I'm not going to lie to you. Not very many things in this world make me speechless, as you might have guessed. I don't even know what to say about that. So we'll move on. The Chosen One says Royals sweep the Orioles. On to the Yankees. And guess what? I hope they take the Yankees out too. Bullseye says, I feel like this new MLB playoff format rewards teams that get hot at the end of the season. Used to be in the playoffs, would weed out those teams with long 7-game series. Now, hot teams can eliminate good teams in these quick 2- and 3-game series. Looking at you, Astros, Orioles, Dodgers, Brewers, and Yankees. And that's true. Like, I just think that you've gone from this Major League Baseball season that's asking that you be consistent every day. Show up. Bats have to show up. Pitching has to show up. Your bullpen needs to be consistent. Your manager needs to make good decisions far more often than he doesn't make good decisions. He's human. He's not going to make good decisions 100% of the time, but he needs to make them most of the time. There's your marathon. And then you get to the playoffs and it turns into a sprint. In fact, it just like it reminds me, and we were talking about this a little bit on Beat the Book, as I watch the Olympics. Okay, I'm like one of those people. The Olympics roll around, I get really excited for no reason to watch all of these sports that I genuinely do not care about for 4 years. The decathlon's an event I enjoy. There are athletes in the decathlon who are great sprinters. They do not do well in the long distance part of that event. The long distance runners also don't do as well in the sprinting. And I think you get to the postseason and you got these short 2- or 3-game series and you get good teams eliminated because they're marathon runners, and now you're making them run a sprint. And I think Major League Baseball loves it. They're never going to change this format. The format is good. All right. Mr. Pink Guy, I'm going to skip and read this text real quick because he says, you've seen Mrs. Doubtfire, but not Happy Gilmore. Lucky Jeffrey's not here. He is the president of the Man Card. I have seen Happy Gilmore. I have not seen Happy Gilmore in 15 years. I watched Mrs. Doubtfire all the time when I was a kid. I don't know what the difference was. My parents thought that, I guess my parents just liked Robin Williams better. I don't know what to tell you, but they did not allow me to watch Happy Gilmore. I watched Happy Gilmore once when I was an adult. I watched Mrs. Doubtfire like 4 times when I was in like middle school. So yeah, that one sticks a little bit better.
What do you want from me? Ghetto Girl says 5 wins. Definitely a team that doesn't suck. Depends on what the expectations are, Ghetto Girl. I don't think that a team that has 5 wins just sucks without context. The Cardinals need to improve from last year. That's all they need to do from last year. They won 4. If they can win 5, I think they'll win more than 5. But you're asking if I think they'll win 5 at least? Yeah, I think they'll win 5 at least. Ringless Joe says Arizona sports teams are on a downswing. Cardinals going to be 4-13 for the 3rd year in a row. D-backs blow up in September. I'm very pessimistic about the Suns' upcoming season. Frank Vogel was 1/3 of the problem, and the other 2/3 of the problem still on the bench. We'll discuss next.
Hey, sports bettors. Jeffrey O'Brien here to tell you about my favorite sportsbook and casino, and that is BetUS.com. Football's back, so it's time to get in on the action. I endorse one sportsbook and casino, and that is BetUS. If you want a game plan to win this season, then check out BetUS. BetUS went large for you this season with a huge offer, a 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits. That's right, 125% bonus on your first 3 deposits. BetUS offers value other sportsbooks simply don't offer. Gamblers insurance, crypto bonuses, and casino bonuses. Plus, they have all the products you need. Competitive odds, parlays, live betting, odds boosts, and prop betting. And when you're ready to lay down your bet, give your bet an edge. Why not combine your sign-up bonus with knowledge? Get that knowledge with expert analysis, picks, and predictions on all major sports on their very own BetUS TV. Get started today at BetUS.com or give them a call at 1-800-MY-BetUS. BetUS, where the game begins.
Cashback is not available on gas in New Jersey and Wisconsin. $5,000. That's the average amount of money people in the U.S. are now spending on gas in a year. $5,000. That's crazy. If you drive, you have to download Upside, the free app that gives you cash back every time you get gas. That's right. You can earn real cash back with Upside just by buying the gas you're already buying. You can literally start earning cash back today.
I use Upside every time I fill up. I've already made around $200-$300.
You're putting gas in your car anyway. Why not get real cash back? If you like free money, download Upside.
I'm saving the cash I earn from using Upside to help pay for a vacation later this year.
Download the free Upside app now to earn cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code GAME to get an extra 25 cents per gallon on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code GAME for a 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code GAME for a 25 cents per gallon bonus.
It's fall football season, and Kasai Japanese Steakhouse is doubling down. Now with 2 Valley locations. When it comes to Asian cuisine, no one does it better and more authentic than Kasai, where talented Teppan chefs create the food, the fire, and the fun of teppanyaki. Kasai Japanese Steakhouse isn't just dinner, it's dinnertainment. A memorable dining experience where a delicious 7-course meal is prepared right at your table with flair. It's a perfect choice for celebrations, date nights, or a night on the town. Choose from over 30 different items and combinations of teppanyaki, Asian fusion, and innovative sushi. Happy hour is always on fire and offered daily with specials on their Asian-inspired comfort food like Korean steak tacos, Mongolian barbecue ribs, and signature Wagyu beef sliders. Always a memorable dinner, or catch the game and a bite at the bar at Kasai. Now the 2 locations, Scottsdale Road in Thunderbird and in Peoria at the 101 in Northern. Go to KasaiTeppan.com. That's Kasai Teppan.com, or search Kasai on your mobile phone.
KQFN Tempe. Also transmitting on K257CD Phoenix at 99.3 FM and K240 EU Mountain Hills at 95.9 FM.
It's time for the 3rd hour.
Quiet, people, settle down. Because it's time.
Time for what?
Showtime.
When does it start?
Right now. 3, 2, 1.
Let's get on with the show. Let's do it.
Hour number 3 of the Daily Blender. The text line blowing up. A lot of stuff planned for the show today, and we'll just have to get to it tomorrow because this is the Fourth Dimension show, apparently. The Fourth Dimension has never been a stronger co-host in this show. Because you are the 4th co-host of this show when we have Jeffrey and Randy and me, and then you.
apparently we're hosting the show together. It's just you, the Fourth Dimension, and I. So that's what's going on today. Swave Dave on the text line saying, Keon, I would almost bet your parents didn't want you to watch Happy Gilmore because of the dream sequence. That's where the girlfriend is in lingerie and there's a little person is spanking his pony. Yeah. Well, first off, you didn't say little person. I chose to say that because that's just how I roll. Okay. I got a conscience and that says not to do that. So that would make all the sense in the world. Yeah. Yeah. Like the movies I remember from, I don't know, over 20 years ago are the ones I watched multiple times. I watched Happy Gilmore once. It just does not stick as strong as some other ones. Though, like, all the scenes with Bob Barker stick in my mind immediately. So I got nothing. I got nothing. The Raven Kid says, I was just gonna say the same thing when I heard it was just you. I could have come in today if I was asked. And it's 2 days, not just one. You're right. That you have 2 days of experience. And the reason we didn't ask you, Raven Kid, was it was very sudden. You missed the beginning of the show when Randy was actually here. And he's kind of going through some stuff. So you had to take a walk, go handle his business because it's distracting him right now. So he's gonna handle that. He'll be back tomorrow. And you just got me. That's just what it is. I have not planned to be here. We are just here. Chief Skull says, we have faith in you, Keon. What will put you over the top is that you are able to do is if you're able to do Keon's weather report. Oh my God. No, I can't do that. Because here's the thing. If Randy comes back and finds out I did the weather report in his absence, he'll be furious. He's got the weather degree up in his office. Randy takes the weather very seriously. I can read the weather, but I'm not going to do the music and all that because that starts to be getting into his territory a little bit, and I'm not going there because Randy's my guy, right? Like Randy's my dude. I'm not going to sit there and step on Randy's toes and step into his turf. Weather is his lane. Would I love to do a Keon's weather report? Potentially. He's not going to be happy to learn that I did that though when he comes back. Hefty Lefty says, I think you can get a tractor's license at like 12 or 13 in the Midwest. That makes sense. I got my driver's license at 15 when I was in Texas. So, but that being said, that's still not 12, I don't think that they're going to let you sign up for the FanDuel with a tractor's license. That would be my guess. T-Licious says the Super Bowl window is closing fast. My guess is on the Niners. And yeah, Super Bowl windows don't last forever. And theirs has been open long enough for them to go to 2. I don't know if you're going to get a third opportunity to go there and come up short. So whatever it is that they're doing, it better be for all the marbles, for sure. Bat Flipper with the hot take of the day. Mrs. Doubtfire was better than Happy Gilmore. Now, I got to rewatch Happy Gilmore before I come to that conclusion because good God almighty. I don't know if I agree with that one. Silver Pop says, it's good though. Mrs. Doubtfire is a very good movie. Silver Pop says, Keon, is this the official audition of Keon Roses without interruption in the 3 p.m. slot? Jeffrey is always saying he's going to get canned and Randy is always away. I'm with it. I like you. I like your Saturday show. Let's make it official. No, this is not an audition of any kind. Randy was actually here earlier today. He had to go handle some business, so he'll be back tomorrow. And Jeffrey is on vacation, just clean on vacation for 2 weeks. So this is all you got right here. And I'll be 100% honest with you. I could have planned this a little bit better, but I didn't plan it at all. And that's because I did not anticipate that Randy was going to have to just run like he did. So appreciate the kind words. It's very motivating. CK says, little person? Wow. Why do they have to be little people? I don't know. That's what they said. That is what most little people say. They don't want to be called the other word. So me personally, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to judge you. It's your mouth. Say whatever you want. I can't do it. Personally, I just don't want to. My conscience is very clear on if people say they would like to be called something or not to like to be called something, I just don't have to call them whatever I feel like. It's just a little bit of being considerate or, trying to be considerate. I'm going to reread Ringless Joe's text because there was a second part to it. and I had to rush through it because we were right before the break. But he was talking about Arizona sports being on a downswing. It's a very pessimistic text. It's going to bring the mood of this whole show down. But we've got an hour of show left, so we can build back up from where Ringless Joe is about to reduce us all to rubble. Here we go. Arizona sports teams are all on a downswing. Cardinals are going to be 4-13 for the third year in a row. The D-backs blow up in a September collapse, and I'm very pessimistic about the Suns' upcoming season. Frank Vogel was 1/3 of the problem, and the other 2/3 of the problem is still on the bench. And the Coyotes actually died. Like, they no longer exist, so they can never get a win ever again. Which, Ringless Joe, that's not necessarily true for that last one. Franchises return, too. It's just, how long is it going to take for hockey to return to the desert? You know the NHL wants it. The NHL never wanted the Coyotes to go in the first place, but they didn't have control, obviously, over what the ownership group wanted, and the ownership group clearly wanted money more than they wanted the team here, despite everything they said about wanting the team here. As for the Cardinals being 4-13, let's see. If it's 4-13, that's bad. But even if it's better than 4-13, it's not going to be much better. I think that you have to set your expectations properly for a team rebuilding, and I don't know how to express that or explain that to people any better. Which is to say, when you hire a new coach, when you hire a new general manager, they show up and look at what's here, and they want to do something different. And so you have a couple of things that happen with the turnover on a roster like that. You have the players who are just not that great to begin with. Yeah, they just, no matter whose system they were in, they were never going to be players you built your franchise around, players you relied on every week. So you've got to get rid of those guys. But you also have to get rid of players who might actually be a little talented, but they don't fit what the team wants to do. And so there's a step back there. There is for everybody. Look at every team that ever rebuilds. Overwhelmingly, there's a step back. Not everybody can be the Texans last year and go from looking like they have one of the worst rosters in football to a playoff team. That's not normal. That's the exception. That's the outlier. You know what's the rule? The Lions. Brad Holmes became the GM of Detroit, started building, but we didn't see what Detroit was going to be until 3 years after they hired Brad Holmes. Until 3 years after, you hire Dan Campbell. That they took time, and then they finally made a trade to get themselves their quarterback, and the rest is history. But they put talent on the roster, and it took a few years of the Lions continuing to look like the same Lions they always were before they took that same step forward. And I'm going to disagree with you right off the rip, Ghetto Girl, because she said the Cardinals have been rebuilding for almost 35 years. The Cardinals were in a Super Bowl they got screwed out of, Ghetto Girl. That's not rebuilding. They went to a Super Bowl. I am a fan of the Washington Commanders, if you haven't noticed already. For some reason, we talked about them way too much on the show today. Perhaps because I'm in a good mood. But that team has had a worse run in that same window of years. Maybe not 35, because you had the Commanders being not bad in the late 80s, early 90s. They were actually quite good. They were a very dominant football team. But I don't want to hear about how the Cardinals have been rebuilding for 35 years, because that's not true. They've built, they've had their high points, and then they didn't accomplish the ultimate goal, which is a Super Bowl, and then they regressed, like everybody does that doesn't win a Super Bowl that builds. And then you fire people and start over, and you build again. The Cardinals have been stuck in that process for way too long, but let's not act like the Cardinals have never had any success in the entire time that they've been here. It just hasn't resulted in a championship, which is what you ultimately want. That's what you want. I'm not saying that you should be happy with what you've gotten, but let's not act like you've been the Browns this whole time. Let's not act like you've been the same as the Lions this whole time. You haven't. You've had it better. You have. Ghetto Girl said, read the whole text. Well, I did. The Cardinals have been rebuilding for the greater part of 35 years. They have been here with the exception of a few good years. The few good years, you are taking the few good years as though that means they've been rebuilding the whole time. There are teams that have not had the few good years. Might I direct you to the Cleveland Browns? Have the Cardinals looked anything like the Cleveland Browns that whole time? No. The Browns literally have a season in that same window of time where they won 0 games. You're just not comparing the same things. Chief Skull says Frank Kaminsky make the Suns roster with his comeback, or will he? I think he will, because Frank's a big guy who moves around decently well and shoots the ball. And look at who your coach is. Coach is Mike Budenholzer. He likes big guys who can move around and then shoot the ball. That fits what he wants to do. That fits what his system is all about. He's not a starter, but I do think that Frank Kaminsky has a really good chance of making the Suns roster, and I would be surprised if he didn't. Swave Dave says, way to throw me under the bus, Keon. I only said it that way because it was a dream sequence taken from the movie. But I'm very proud of you for producing, directing, and starring in this episode of the Daily Blender. I wasn't trying to throw you under the bus. I was just simply explaining, in case you wanted to understand why I reworded your text. So my bad. I wasn't trying to throw you under the bus, and I appreciate the kind words. Silver Pop says, so Randy has the runs. Something like that. Look, I wasn't trying to put the guy's business in the streets. Why? What are you doing? I wasn't trying to put everything out there. I'm not saying Randy has the runs. I'm just saying Randy had to run. Whatever you take from that is whatever you take from that. Gamecock says, about to be no wipe November with everyone hoarding the TP again. Oh, no. Why? I must have missed some very important news. Why is everyone hoarding toilet paper? I did read something about a strike, so maybe that has something to do with it. I haven't read actual news today. I've read sports news today. I don't read the real news until after all of my sports stuff is done for the day. So I have no idea what is going on in the world right now. I'm sorry? Aiton's Army says, had the Suns not managed to acquire Tyus Jones, then there would be a much better case to make about the Suns' prospects not being good for this upcoming season. Tyus Jones has the potential to impact the Suns the way Steve Nash did when he came back to Phoenix 20 years ago. NBA purists understand the implications of Jones joining the Suns on a veteran minimum contract. And I agree. I don't know if he's going to have like a Steve Nash level of impact. That remains to be seen. But Tyus Jones is a very good basketball player. And he's an insanely talented, fill in the blank, point guard. That's the word of the day as far as the Phoenix Suns are concerned. They did not have a true, actual point guard last year. And I do think that Suns fans would have been in tears if they had to go out there and watch another Booker Ball, Beal Ball point guard game. I would have been in tears having to watch that. They weren't good at it. I thought they would be better last year. I thought Beal would be better at handling some point guard responsibilities. I thought that Booker would too. There were times where Booker showed that he had the ability to make the right passes and run an offense. And I think Beal has as well. The problem that we had was that did not happen. That Devin Booker, for all of the flashes that he showed at running the point, didn't actually run the point well for most of the season. And you could make the same argument for Beal. And then to the extent that Beal was doing any kind of good job, he was just injured so often that you couldn't really rely on it anyway. Tyus Jones helps a lot. And Tyus Jones, he was playing for my Wizards last year. And the reason why the Wizards let him walk is simply because Jordan Poole was the guy they moved to point guard. There was just no space on the roster for Tyus Jones. He no longer had his position available. And Tyus Jones wants to do two things: start and play competitive basketball near the end of the year. So he didn't want to go back to Washington. And he took a veteran minimum contract on purpose. He could have gone to other teams. There were teams that offered him more money than the Suns were available to. The Suns are obviously a second apron team in the NBA, which without getting into the ESPN's Bobby Marks confusing, convoluted explanation of how everything works with the NBA cap right now, if you're in the second apron, you're screwed. That's the short of it. That's the Cliff Notes edition of the NBA salary cap. The Suns are kind of screwed. They can only offer minimum deals. They offered Tyus Jones a minimum deal, and he took it because he wants to play on a team that can compete. But he's a real point guard. He's an actual starting point guard in the National Basketball Association. That alone makes the Suns a better basketball team. When you combine that with what Mike Budenholzer wants to do, the fact that everywhere Mike Budenholzer has gone, his teams have shot the basketball incredibly well. They score at a high clip. Budenholzer's been able to coach teams to conference finals like the Hawks with no real superstars. Like me and Dylan were looking at this the other day. No real superstars. Like Paul Millsap might have been the best player on the team. Paul Millsap, Kyle Korver, Al Horford, stars, good players, but not superstars. Like that's really impressive. I just don't think this is the same Suns. Do I think that they're going to be infinitely better than last year? Let's find out. Let's watch and see. But the pieces are there for the result to be different. This is not the definition of insanity. This is not a team trying the same thing over and over again and getting a different result. They tried it last year with no point guard. It didn't work. They got a point guard. They tried it last year with Vogel. It didn't work. They went and got a more offensive-minded coach who's going to make the players happy. That matters. How could that possibly not matter? How could that possibly not matter? I think that the Suns are going to be better than people think this year. That's all I'm saying. Ringless Joe says, you make great points about the Cardinals, but I feel they've been rebuilding since the dinosaurs ruled the earth. I understand the feeling. And by the way, Ghetto Girl, I wasn't ripping you. I hope it didn't sound as bad as maybe it came across. I genuinely didn't. I just don't agree. I've rooted for a team that's been worse than yours for the last 20 years. And they're finally getting it right. But the Commanders have had rebuild years that resulted in a team worse than the team that they started building as. I can't say that for the Cardinals, where they were rebuilding, and at the end of the rebuild, they were worse than when they started. That's been true for the Commanders constantly. That's been true for the Browns, for the most part, constantly. And until recently, that was true for the Lions, too. There are a lot of teams. The Jaguars, it's been true for them often. There are a lot of teams that are suffering with that. It's not, when I say rebuilding, it's, hey, we start with what we have. We throw out what doesn't work. We try to bring in what works. The Cardinals are doing that right now with a GM in year 2, with a coach in year 2. Let's see if they can figure it out. I start over fresh every single time. The Raven Kid says, I enjoy Tyus Jones' game as much as the next guy, but Steve Nash is a reach. I think so too. I wouldn't say a Steve Nash-like impact, except for the level where maybe he has a big impact just from, if you're going from literally no point guard to a competent NBA point guard, maybe that's a similar gap you're filling. The Moist One says, I would want Frank on the Suns so I could see his wife courtside. Moist One, no, we're not. We do not talk like that around here. Many of us, I'm not going to speak for everyone, but many of us, our parents raised us just a little bit better than that. He also said Jeff Teague. Jeff Teague was also on that Budenholzer Hawks team. Jeff Teague was really good too. That was great. Jeff Teague, all-star Jeff Teague. Jeff Teague does a podcast now that's actually very fascinating and very interesting. And the way he talks about himself, you'd think Jeff Teague was a scrub. Jeff Teague was not a scrub. He was incredible. Just not a superstar. That team didn't have superstars, and they ran into LeBron James in the Eastern Conference Finals. I think Mike Budenholzer is going to do some good things with this basketball team. There are more texts rolling in, some of them positive about the Cardinals, negative about the Cardinals, positive about the Suns, negative about the Suns. And we'll get to all of those things. I see you, Gamecock, Ghetto Girl, Jonesy, all of you guys, and we'll get back to the text line on the other side. You're listening to the Daily Blender on 1580 The Fanatic.
This is Brent Musburger's Action Update on 1580 and 99.3 The Fanatic. Get insights into the sports betting market with VSiN's betting splits. See where the money is and keep updated on how the market is reacting. Only at VSIN.com. Now, here are the latest lines from my guys in the desert.
The NASCAR Cup Series will be racing at Talladega on Sunday. It's the Yellowwood 500, second race at the Super Speedway this season. Tyler Reddick won there back in April. This is the second race of round 2 of the playoffs, and because Ross Chastain won at Kansas, none of the 12 playoff drivers earned an automatic berth into round 3. Brad Keselowski and Ryan Blaney are currently the betting favorites to win at Talladega, both at plus 900. Joey Logano plus 1,000. Kyle Busch plus 1,100. Denny Hamlin and William Byron, both plus 1,200. I'm Tony Desiri with your VSiN Action Update on 1580 and 99.3 The Fanatic.
The Fanatic is your home for fall football. Catch the NFL and NCAA live games on 1580 and 99.3 The Fanatic. Brought to you by Bet365. It's never ordinary at Bet365.
Imagine your team always looking and feeling their best in high-performance technical workwear. Cintas can make it happen. They have garments for almost every job imaginable. And with the Cintas Workwear program, you get freshly laundered garments delivered every week for everyone on your team. Great garments without the bother of laundry. That's a real perk for employees. Find out how Cintas can boost team image and morale. Visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
Is reviewing life insurance on your to-do list? Now's the perfect time to add it. A friend recently told me that securing life insurance sooner rather than later can help you lock in lower rates for years to come. So I bumped this up on my list and got it done. I called SelectQuote and couldn't believe how easy and affordable life insurance is. I'm 40 and got a $500,000 policy for $16 a month. My husband's also 40, and his $500,000 policy was only $18 a month. Plus, with SelectQuote's same-day coverage, there was no medical exam required, and we were covered by the time we hung up. Knowing I have this checked off my list feels amazing, but the peace of mind knowing my family is protected feels even better.
Call Select Quote at 1-800-880-6363. That's 1-800-880-6363. Or go to SelectQuote.com to get your free quote today. 1-800-880-6363. Details on example rate at SelectQuote.com.
Hi, guys. Jeffrey O'Brien here. Have you ever gone to HarmonSolar.com? Well, you really need to, because everything you ever wanted to know about how solar power can save you big on your monthly electric bill is right there. It's online. Through your phone or through your computer, you can learn about tax credits, the equipment they use, look at how they do things for businesses as well as homeowners, see testimonials from happy customers, and I hear they got a pretty good podcast too. Check it out. Go to HarmonSolar.com. That's HarmonSolar.com.
Championship weekend is coming back to the desert. 4 title races in 3 days means there will be a buzz in the air all weekend long. NASCAR Championship Weekend at Phoenix Raceway, November 8th through the 10th. Get your tickets now at PhoenixRaceway.com.
What's up, everybody? Nick Costos here, host of You Better You Bet, reminding you to check out the show. Now, why should you check out You Better You Bet? Because we bring you the most fun. We bring you the most insightful, the most entertaining show in the wagertainment world. From up-to-the-minute breakdowns of backdoor covers, bad beats, and the cheers and tears that come alongside them. Plus, you'll get the best betting analysis anywhere from myself, Ken Barkley, and some of the best minds in the sports wagering world. So tune in weekdays, noon to 3 on Arizona sports betting station, 1580 and 99.3, The Fanatic.
888-368-1580. And the fourth dimension has never, ever been a bigger part of this show. I'm certain of it. I'm certain of it. This is the most text I think I've ever read. I have no idea how Jeffrey does this. It's constant. It's a stream of consciousness that flows and flows. And we'll work with it. We'll have some fun. Thanks for texting in. Thanks for dropping in your input. I have a very angry voice. This is something I learned about myself when I was like 14. I sound mad all the time. I'm not. I'm genuinely not. I have the worst combination of things. I have an angry voice, and I like to argue. I enjoy it. The sport of debate. It's very interesting to me, and I like going back and forth with people. So if I'm going back and forth with you, don't take it personally. Ghetto Girl hasn't. I disagreed, but Ghetto Girl is still texting in. Appreciate it. Says the Commanders and the Cardinals have have bad owners. Yeah. They've just not been the same kind of bad owner. And you could argue that the Browns ownership isn't good either. And the Lions ownership has just been like they're not actively bad owners. They're just not great. Yeah. Ownership decides a lot of how good you are and how much when you go to rebuild, how good can you be at that? Your owner is going to decide that. Is your owner meddling like David Tepper, the owner of the Panthers? The Panthers are going to be stuck forever as long as he owns that team because he meddles. He hires football people, but then he doesn't get out of the way of those people. Is your owner just cheap? like Bill
like Bill Bidwell was, because that's going to obviously affect some things too. If you can't get your owner to pay for the players and pay for the talent, that's going to be a major issue. Is your owner just essentially a con artist and a criminal like Dan Snyder was? Because you're not going anywhere either with that stuff. So yeah, no, bad owner means your team is less likely to be good. But even teams with bad owners can be successful if they get lucky. It just depends on what kind of bad owner you have. They're not all made the same. Some of them are just crooks. Some of them can't get out of their own way. Some of them, I mean, what do you want to say about the Jim Irsay? Jim Irsay's not a bad guy, but if the Colts didn't have a Super Bowl with Peyton Manning, you could argue that Jim Irsay is not a good owner. He hires people, he gets out of the way, but he tends to be a distraction himself. That there are different kinds of bad owner. And I don't know if Michael Bidwell is the kind of bad owner that traps you in the basement forever. I have no idea. It seems like he might be finally learning to get the hell out of the way. We'll see. Because some guys do it for a little bit, and then when there's some success, they jump right back in and then go right back to their old ways. We'll find out what kind of owner Michael Bidwell becomes, because he is pretty young. There is going to be a learning curve, I think, to owning a sports franchise, and it takes some guys years sometimes. Gamecock says Suns aren't getting by any of the top 4 Western Conference teams. Hey, man, they got to play the games. And I don't know that that's true. I'm not making any predictions right now. I genuinely don't like to make predictions to start the season when a lot of things have changed. I just like to watch the games. And then as I get more information, then I start to feel better or worse about certain things. I am fairly optimistic about the Suns, but how far they can go, I have no earthly idea, because I don't know how big of an impact Tyus Jones is going to have, how big of an impact Mike Budenholzer is going to have. But I think it would be pretty crazy to say that it wouldn't be a gigantic impact. It's going to be huge, but does it fill the gap? That's the question. CK says, pretty simple. Diamondbacks choked, Cards are ass, Suns are going to win it all. I mean, we hope so. I would be happy about it. I used to root for the Suns when I was a kid because I liked Steve Nash a lot. I was a very small player. Point guard was the only position I could play. I liked the way he played. The way he could see the floor. I never got to that level, and I couldn't shoot for crap. So I never lived up to what my hero did. But I watched a lot of Steve Nash basketball when I was a kid. Cardinal Art says Malcolm Brogdon says he always wanted to be a Wizard. Yeah, right. The late great Wes Unseld didn't even wish that on himself. Is Brogdon capping, as the youngsters say? Asking for a friend. He is. That's just a lie. That he's just looked directly at the camera. He held a microphone to his face, and then he just lied. And it's the kind of lie that you tell at a media day. You have to. You have no choice. What is he supposed to say? I hate it here. I took their money, but I know this team is not going to be good. That they've been a deeply unserious basketball organization for 30 years. He's not going to say that. The Washington Wizards play in a basketball town, which nobody knows because they haven't been good at basketball the entire time. He obviously isn't happy to be a Wizard. He always wanted to be a Wizard. Nonsense. No. BS. No. However, what else is he supposed to say? That's exactly the kind of lie you tell people at a media day, and then everybody gets the warm and fuzzies like, wow, Malcolm Brogdon, he always wanted to be here. He does not. If you're older than 13 years old, really, you can't fall for that. It's just he's saying what he's supposed to say. I get it. That's the game. It's all in the game. Tyus Jones, says Aiton's Army, was 9th in the NBA for assists per game last season with 7.3. His main offensive weapons were Kyle Kuzma, Jordan Poole, and Denny Avdia, who's now with the Portland Trailblazers. He now gets to swap those 3 for Beal, Booker, and Durant. If that translates to an additional 3 assists per game from where he was last season, he will challenge Tyrese Halliburton for league leader in assists and would be averaging about the same amount of assists as Nash did with the Suns. It's not that big of a stretch. Strong points, Aiton's Army. Just got to see how it plays out on the court. I mean, there's always that lingering in the back of my mind. How's the chemistry actually going to show up when you get out there? There are times where you see a collection of players and you think it's going to work, and then it doesn't work exactly like how you thought. But Tyus Jones is a talented basketball player, and I think he is going to help the Suns an awful lot. The Moist One says the Panthers are going to give Geno $50 million next year. It seems like exactly the kind of dumb, unwise decision that they would make. I think David Tepper's off of rookies. He's learned the exact wrong lesson. The lesson David Tepper should have learned isn't that rookies don't work. It's that if your head coach and your general manager say, we don't want to draft the guy, don't draft the guy. That's all. That's the only lesson to learn. Frank Reich said, I don't want Bryce Young to be my quarterback. I don't think he can run my offense. And David Tepper said, that's the projected number 1 overall pick in the draft. We're drafting him. Then they drafted him. And then when Bryce Young couldn't run the offense, Frank Reich said he couldn't run. David Tepper fired Frank Reich. And now he's benched Bryce Young. He didn't learn any lesson from that at all, except that, maybe we'll get a veteran quarterback next time. So yeah, I agree with the Moist One. I think I don't know if it's going to be Geno or somebody else, but it's hard for people to not look at the retreads having good seasons right now. Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Justin Fields, and go, well, what if we get a retread? Maybe that'll make everything better. We've got Andy Dalton doing some better things. Geno's better than Andy. Let's see if we can make it work. That's the lesson that David Tepper's about to learn. He's not going to learn anything useful from being bad at what he does. Swazman says, Keon, like Aaron Rodgers said, RELAX. Relax. Calm and happy is my goal with the animals I hang out with. You will be better off. I don't recall exactly what that's in reference to at this particular moment. I don't remember what I will be better off with is what I'm saying, because it's been a while. It's been a while. You sent this text like a couple minutes ago. I don't recall. Silver Pop says, con artist and criminal. I don't know Trump was the owner of a team. We're not going to take this to a political place, Silver Pops. You're going to get me in trouble. But Dan Snyder, con artist, he defrauded the NFL. He defrauded fans. There was a court case about it. It went to court. It went to court. That's all I'm going to say on that. Jonesy says, also question for you. If the Cardinals continue the rest of the season this way and lose the majority of the games and maybe win a couple more games, who's on more of a hot seat, Gannon or Kyler? Kyler. Also, he asked earlier, he just got off work. Is it just me today? Yeah, Jonesy, it's just me today. It's just me today. It was supposed to be me and Randy. Randy had to go take care of some stuff, so we'll have Randy back tomorrow. It's just me. And the Fourth Dimension's been keeping me company, and we've been having a blast as we roll through. But to answer your question, it's Kyler. Kyler's on the hotter seat here because they didn't sign Kyler. They didn't draft Kyler. They're going to have the longer leash in this. They're the ones that are coming in and trying to fit what's here into what they want to do. And, Kyler offers enough upside, and it's going to be hard for you to get a quarterback right now. Why not see what you have in Kyler while you have to pay him all this money? Just see. And when the contract starts to get cheap and it doesn't cost you too much to walk away from Kyler Murray, you might want to walk away from Kyler Murray. So I do think that this is a hotter seat for Kyler, because either this team's going to move forward with him or they're going to move forward without him. But I think that Jonathan Gannon stays. I think that Gannon has shown enough. I don't think that the Cardinals are failing to win football games because Jonathan Gannon doesn't have the team prepared. I don't think they're failing to win football teams because the offense isn't coached well. There's a whole lot of stuff that's going on that offense that isn't clicking, and a lot of it has to do with Kyler, if we're honest. And I say this as somebody who just genuinely likes watching Kyler Murray play football. When Kyler's playing well, he's one of my favorite players in the league to watch. But let's be honest, he has entire quarters and sometimes entire games where he doesn't look good, where it looks like he's not seeing the field, where if the offensive line can't hold up, Kyler can't see down the field. If it does hold up, all good. But there's just too many things there. And Kyler's been the one that's been here the longest. And he's the one that the regime didn't bring in. Monty Ossenfort didn't draft him. And if Monty looks at Kyler and goes, we could probably do better at quarterback, or if the Cardinals lose enough games where they wind up in that top quarterback conversation, the days of Kyler Murray are very, very much numbered. Yes. Beer Bob says, don't want to say the Bears owner is a bad owner because she's a 90-year-old lady, but she has not surrounded herself with smart people to run that organization better. And that's a kind of bad owner. It's not the worst owner. It's just an owner who depends on other people to get it right and then just doesn't have better people around them to help get it right. And it's unfortunate. It does suck because she wants to win. She's not meddling. She's not getting she's not getting involved in things. She's not a crook. But without the right people around her, let me put it this way. It's not that she's a bad owner of the team. It's that the other people are bad owners of the team. And that if you invite other people to make those kinds of decisions, the decisions an owner would make, they are owners. And that they suck. That's the long and short of it. Gamecock says, do you think the Suns would have won a chip yet if they drafted Luka? I can't say because Luka hasn't won a chip yet. So there's no way. And he's on a team that spares no expense to help him. Mark Cuban, who's going to be kind of taking more of a step back this year, but Mark Cuban has spared no expense for Luka Doncic. They have made every move that they could to try and get him help. They've made every move to try and get him, defensive help, offensive help in the case of Kyrie Irving. They have tried a lot to try and get Luka Doncic some help. And the fact of the matter is, until Luka becomes a slightly better defender, it is going to be hard for Luka to win a championship. Luka is a lazy defender. I don't think that he has to be as bad as he looks, but he is a lazy defender. He gets hunted defensively. There are teams that know that, sure, if we give up 40 to Luka, that's bad. But if we can get 30 of those points back going directly at Luka with various players, that works just as well. So I don't think that Luka is the reason the Suns don't have a title. No, I don't think that would have made a difference at all. The Suns did go to a finals, a place that Luka Doncic has not gone to and has not seen. I don't think that would have been the case. Gamecock. No, his name just reappeared there. I don't know why. I'll read one last text. It's the Raven Kid, and then we'll go. We'll come back, and we'll wrap this bad boy up for the day. I appreciate everybody jumping in on the text line, 888-368-1580. Very much appreciated. It helped carry the show today as the second co-host. You moved into the second chair today because I had to move to first. So that's the fourth dimension for you. Always having my back. Raven Kid says, Keon, I wasn't listening the day after it happened, but I'm curious on your thoughts on that cat trade last week and who won it. Okay, I don't remember all the details of the trade off the top of my head, Raven Kid. So how about this? We'll go to a break. I'll just pull up the trade info, and then we'll come back. We'll talk about that trade, other things on the text line, because I see you, Beer Bob, Swazman, Booger Wolf, who I'm sure has something to say that's something. Next, here on the Daily Blender on 1580, The Fanatic.
Hey, football fans, Michael Vick here. I had an advantage. My legs were a weapon. 6,109 rushing yards, still unbeaten records. That's why I bet at BetUS.com. They offer American sports bettors an advantage. The industry's biggest bonus, a 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits. And get expert picks and predictions on their very own BetUS TV. Take advantage. Join me online at BetUS Sportsbook and Casino. BetUS, where the game begins.
4 years. That's how long it took Democrats to ruin our economy and plunge our southern border into anarchy. Who helped them hurt us? Ruben Gallego. Washington could have cut taxes for Arizona families, but Ruben blocked the bill. And his fellow Democrats gave a bigger break to the millionaire class in California and New York. They played favorites and cost us billions. And Ruben wasn't done yet. Democrats could have secured the border. Instead, they invited an invasion and used our tax dollars to pay for it. Ruben Gallego even backed a law to let them vote in our elections. Don't give Gallego and the Democrats another 4 years to hurt us. Give your support to a real Arizona leader, Kari Lake. Kari and the Republicans will secure the border, support our families, and never turn their backs on us. Kari Lake for Senate.
I'm Kari Lake, candidate for U.S. Senate, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Kari Lake for Senate and the NRSC.
Mom, meet Sarah.
From first time Nana moments.
Yeah, welcome to Flight 101.
To annual girls trip moments. Your can't miss moments are worth protecting against RSV. If you're 75 or older or 60 plus with a chronic condition like asthma, COPD, heart disease, or severe diabetes, you're at higher risk of landing in the hospital from RSV. And there are no prescription RSV treatments. Check eligibility and schedule your RSV vaccine at vaxassist.com.
So where should we go next?
Sponsored by Pfizer.
Hi, I'm Angie Hicks, co-founder of Angie. When you use Angie for your home projects, you know all your jobs will be done well. Roof repair? Done well. Kitchen sink install? Done well. Deck upgrades? Done well. Electrical upgrade? Done well. Angie's been connecting homeowners with skilled pros for nearly 30 years, so we know the difference between done and done well. Hire high-quality certified pros at Angie.com.
In most countries of the world, Porte means door. United Porte Custom Doors, located in the Scottsdale Airport Design District, is now open with over 40,000 European doors, all in stock, ready for delivery, and at wholesale prices. Designers, contractors, builders, and yes, you. Come see our showroom on Greenway Hayden Loop. That's United Porte, Porte. Stop by to see and feel the quality at United Porte Custom Doors. Find us at uporte.com. That's uporte.com.
So, what's your favorite thing about sports? The excitement, the action, or the 5-meat pizza and the six-pack?
Bingo.
That's what we thought. 1580 and 99.3 The Fanatic, and always on at 1580thefanatic.com.
Last segment of the Daily Blender, and I have a correction to make. Courtesy of Beer Bob, who said, didn't Luke and the Mavericks go to the finals this year? Yes, Beer Bob. And I said they didn't because I'm a dumbass. Happens sometimes. I got a lot going on upstairs right now. I got a lot of talking going on. Just spitfire. I completely had a brain fart about the past NBA finals. You know, the NBA finals that just happened. So I appreciate you jumping in to correct that there, sir. Appreciate it. Booger Wolf says, and I'm bracing myself for either a very funny text, something that's weird, or the dumbest text of my life. Let's find out. Let's find out together. Let's unwrap this. Booger Wolf says, I will grab Keon by his collared polo shirt, of which I'm not wearing, and super spin him into the bottom of some giraffe ass. Is that it? You use the calories that power your body to type that, did you? Interesting. Swazman says Bears owners are looking for a good family inheritance. $6 billion for the Bears. Jeff Bezos will pay. We'll see if Jeff Bezos will pay. Because, you know, every team has its own you know, every team's got its own price. If Jeff Bezos just wants to own a team, he doesn't have to buy the Bears. you can get a team cheaper. And isn't that absurd? Isn't that a crazy amount of money that you could actually go, I'd rather take a discount team. I'd rather take a team that's worth a little less. The Bears are worth a lot just because you've got that fan base, the diehards, it's built in. The Bears are worth it. But does he want to pay that? I have no idea. Silver Pop says, Keon, since we helped you co-host the show today, can we put co-host of the Daily Blender on our resumes? Now, I don't know if you make that call and put that on your resume, if whoever it is that your future employer decides to call with Radio Ron and check,
I don't know if Radio Ron's going to back you up. However, you did technically co-host a show. So do with that information what you'd like. Cardinal Art says, Keon, don't know if you heard the word, but CMC has tendonitis in both of his Achilles. And I did hear the word. We talked about it a little bit yesterday and what Kyle Shanahan had to say about that. And that's very bad news for Niner fans. Not that Jordan Mason's been doing a terrible job. He's been doing a pretty good job at running back, but there's a difference in that offense when McCaffrey's not out there. Because Brock Purdy is playing out of his mind right now. Like, Purdy looks really good. And it doesn't seem to guarantee 49er victories. I still think that they're missing that bit of explosiveness that Christian McCaffrey provides, or Brandon Ayuk was supposed to provide. One of those two. Cardinal Art says, Keon, I'm disappointed in you. Not once did you let the show go off the rails. I'm a little disappointed in me too. I wasn't trying to stop that. Like, I wasn't trying to box it in, but I think we were just having a very fun sports conversation. So we just didn't end up going off the rails. If we had gotten go off the rails texts, it might have happened. But we didn't, though. That's the thing. We for whatever reason, this is the most on task day in Daily Blender history. And I don't know why. Who can say? I'm not saying I would have allowed the show to go off the rails, but it wasn't because I tried to keep it on track. We just wound up there. So let's get back to a text that we got from the Raven Kid prior to us going to break, because he was asking a question about the trade between the Timberwolves and the Knicks, and the Hornets were involved. They were the third team to try and make it all work because the Hornets didn't get anybody I recognized. They got a dude named Charlie Brown. He said, I didn't say that. The show officially just went off the rails. Okay, fair. That's fair. But back to the Raven Kid's text. It's funny that you say that, Raven Kid, that you weren't listening on the day that the Karl Anthony Towns trade happened, because that was a weekend, I think, like right before the weekend. So we didn't talk about it, and then we didn't talk about it yesterday either, because we just never got there. So let's talk about it today, because that trade is a big trade. It's going to impact a lot of things in the East and Western Conference, at the top even. The top of the Eastern Conference does include the New York Knicks, who traded away a few players. They traded away Julius Randle. They traded away Dante DiVincenzo. I don't recall everybody else that they traded there. They traded away a couple second round picks as well. Those went to the Hornets, and they got Karl Anthony Towns. The Timberwolves got Julius Randle, DiVincenzo. They got Keita Bates-Diop, a 2025 first-round pick from the Knicks via the Pistons, which is starting to get, too many layers deep on that, but this is how NBA trades work, and they're always confusing that way. But the point is they got a first-rounder in 2025 from the Knicks. And then the Hornets got a bunch of guys you probably don't know. Charlie Brown, not good grief Charlie Brown, but a guy named Charlie Brown, Daquan Jeffries, Dwayne Washington Jr., 2 second-round picks from the Knicks, 1 second-round pick from the Timberwolves. So that's what happened there in that trade. And Raven Kid was wondering what I thought on the trade and who I think won the trade. And I don't think anybody won this trade. I also don't think anybody lost this trade either. I think that this is actually one of the handful of actually fair trades that has happened in the NBA, because Karl Anthony Towns is a very talented basketball player. But when you need to rely on a Karl Anthony Towns, it's a little tough, because he's not a good defensive player, despite the fact that he's 7 feet tall. At 7 feet tall, you need a little bit more out of him. The reason why the Timberwolves traded for Rudy Gobert the way that they did is because Rudy Gobert is the 7-footer that can actually protect the basket. Karl Anthony Towns couldn't do it. Karl Anthony Towns is the most confusing basketball player because he is 7 feet tall and prefers to play like he's not 7 feet tall. I've never seen anybody else in the history of the NBA be that, that completely removed from the actual size of his body. You're 7 feet tall. You could just go down there and push those little guys around and score. You could. Other guys in the league do it. Jokic does it. Embiid does it. Karl-Anthony Towns is drafted to be a player of that caliber. He's not. And certainly not on the defensive end. And then he loves to shoot threes. It was hard for the Timberwolves, I think, to move forward with him and Rudy Gobert out there because Rudy is an offensive liability. Karl is a defensive liability. So if I want to score, I hunt Karl. If I want to stop myself from being scored on, I make sure that I have enough defenders so that the ball gets to Rudy and we leave it to Rudy to score. That's not working for the Timberwolves. And I think the Timberwolves realized we're just not going to go anywhere doing that. That's a problem. So what they did was they moved on from Karl-Anthony Towns and they made sure to get themselves a pick in the process, which is nice. Get yourself some draft capital. But Julius Randle, and Dante helps too, but Julius Randle, I think, gives you a guy who can kind of two-way a little bit and makes a little bit more sense to play alongside a Rudy Gobert. So Rudy can do his thing defensively, but you're not necessarily going to hunt Julius Randle as a matchup problem the same way you were hunting Karl-Anthony Towns. He was being hunted, I tell you. That's just the Timberwolves couldn't run that back. Meanwhile, I think that the Knicks are probably better equipped because of all of the players that they have defensively. I think the Knicks are actually pretty well equipped to have a Karl-Anthony Towns on their team. And if Karl goes out there and just plays his game, there are enough quality defenders. You can't just go after Karl-Anthony Towns defensively. There are ways to help him. There are ways to hide him. You can do that. He makes more sense on the Knicks. And Julius Randle makes more sense on the Timberwolves. Big George says, has anyone done a welfare check on Donnie after the Karl-Anthony Towns trade? I don't think you have to do a welfare check. I don't think the Timberwolves got worse. I mean, you know how I feel about Karl. You know how I feel about Karl. I've never been a big Karl fan. But he does have talent. I don't think that, I mean, it depends on how sold out Donnie was for that guy. But I don't think losing Karl makes you a worse basketball team. Silver Pop says DeAndre Ayton was a big dude who didn't like to play big. And now look at him. Disappeared in Portland. What does he even do in Portland? I don't watch enough Blazers games, but the last time I saw DeAndre Ayton, he looked just as bad there as he did here. Doing nothing. And they say somehow up in Portland, he's somehow even lazier. I don't know how that's possible, but it is. So yeah, big guys that play little, that has to be the most annoying thing in the world to me. It does. Big Jake on the text line, I mean, rapid firing text. I'll see if I can read all of them. He says, refreshing to only talk normal people sports conversations. I wonder what's different today. Keon is my guy. Look, if I had other things, I might bring up other things. I only have sports. I'm a nerd. He says, Cat plays like a 6'5" guard and is mad inconsistent. Absolutely. He also says, up and down nightly, never know what you're going to get. Good trade for the Wolves for sure. Randle is mad underrated. He is underrated. Julius Randle is going to bring a lot to that team, and including consistency scoring the basketball. And somebody like Julius Randle's not the best defender in the world, but he moves his feet. It's respectable. You can't just know that you're going to get a bucket when you go up against Julius Randle. You do actually have to work for it. Cardinal Art says, who wins tomorrow? Phoenix Suns or Lakers? Cardinal Art, I'm not answering that question, and not for any particular reason, except that it's preseason basketball, and I don't care. That's just the truth. Sir Drives a Lot says, Ayton sits in the driveway and waits for the ice to melt. Yeah, the game that he missed where his neighborhood had ice, and so he couldn't make it to the stadium to play the game. I'm sorry. Everybody else on your team made it to the stadium that day. And the coaching staff. You have no excuses. That's DeAndre Ayton. Big George says, on this date in Big George sports history, well, thanks for the reminder. I'm scrambling here, Big George. I'm trying to make sure that everybody gets their text read and everything else. And it just occurred to me, we might be running out of time a little bit. So let's see here, because Jeffrey did forward the sports history to me. If I can pull it up somewhere, that would be absolutely lovely. There it is. There we go. So we got the on this date in Big George's sports history. Do I have enough time to play the music? I don't think that I do. And you should keep in mind here that I am, in addition to hosting this show, running the board. So I have many buttons to push all the time while I am talking. We're just going to read on this date in Big George's sports history, and then we'll do the music and make it nicer tomorrow. All right, Big George? So this is just one I'm picking at random here. On this date in Big George's sports history, back in the year 1920, the only triple header ever played in the 20th century, the Cincinnati Reds took the first two games 13-4 and 7-3. The Pittsburgh Pirates, avoiding the sweep, winning their shortened finale 6-0, called after 6 innings on account of darkness, because they used to do that all the time. Peter Harrison was the home plate umpire for all 3 games. So there you have it on this date in Big George's sports history. Finally read. The moist one says, Teacher Lady George's quote? Something like that. It's something like that. Glad we had a good day. Full day of sports. Got to everybody, I think. Appreciate you guys listening to the show, texting in. Come back tomorrow where I'll be here and so will Randy. And it won't just be me running my voice ragged for 3 hours. See you tomorrow. Have a good night. Daily Blender, 1580 The Fanatic.
It's fall football.